Kita et Poula, Jean-Paul Bilanga.
Chérie, fais-moi bisous pour la demande. Laurentine, fais-moi caler pour la demande. Aïe, 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 fais tes choix. Aïe, 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 fais tes choix.
Fifi na papi masamba na kati Allemagne.
Yendi mwasi mwana suka tuyunga na yetu kwenda lima. Mwana suka yendi kuna kaya mwana mima yaya. Chekubule, chekubulo, chekubule.
Kesi Alino.
Chekubulo.
Apula de Versace, Crawford.
Mwana mwane ya mwana tate. Yena mwote.
Mwana Toba.
Mwane ya mwana tate. Oya matoko matija zabuke dina kedila matoko matoko.
Motoko kosa bilo, nana bota mike.
Les propriétaires de tous les dossiers. Ah oui, l'on a mon champion d'Afrique. Tout bizarre. Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema. Banakina, Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema. Banaprasa, Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema. Erikelema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema. Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema. Ça c'est la troisième guerre mondiale. Vidinai va Jojata. Aneri, Anritata. Amoni va sheki. Yana, Arribaba. Amoni va sheki. Yada, Yada, Yana, Amoni va sheki. Yada, Yada, Amoni va sheki.
Simola. Allez, tout ça va signer.
Fele, ya masele, fele mama yolo. Fele, ya masele, fele maya mwana. Fele, ya masele, fele maya mwana. Fele, ya masele, fele maya mwana. Fele, ya masele, fele maya mwana.
Kita et Poula, Jean-Paul Bilanga.
Chérie, fais-moi bisous pour la demande. Laurentine, fais-moi caler pour la demande. Aïe, 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 fais tes choix. Aïe, 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 fais tes choix.
Fifi na papi masamba na kati Allemagne.
Yendi mwasi mwana suka tuyunga na yetu kwenda lima. Mwana suka yendi kuna kaya mwana mima yaya. Chekubule, chekubulo, chekubule.
Kesi Alino.
Chekubulo.
Apula de Versace, Crawford.
Mwana ya mwana tate. Yena mwote.
Mwana Toba.
Mwana ya mwana tate. Oya matoko matija zabuke dina kedila matoko matoko.
Motoko kosa bilo, nana bota
Les
mike.
propriétaires de tous les dossiers. Ah oui, l'on a mon champion d'Afrique. Tout bizarre. Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema. Banakina, Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema. Banaprasa, Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema. Erikelema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema. Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema. Jamoubema, Jamoubema, Jamoubema.
PDG Barouani.
Ça c'est la troisième guerre mondiale. Vidinai va Jojata. Aneri, Anritata. Amoni va sheki.
And that's right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say hello and welcome. Welcome to a fresh, brand new edition of the program, Ashford Garley Live. On this beautiful Monday night, the 13th of July, 2020. And folks, let us show hope you're having a great time tonight. special guest in the building, George P. Lobbo. He represents the Unity Party tonight in our studios. Oh man, a lot of things to talk about. What are you drinking tonight? Grab something to drink. Make yourselves feel at home. Hit the share button. Invite a few friends so that we can together have a great time tonight. How was your weekend? And as always, make no mistake, throw no joke on this one, folks. This is yours truly, the brother who doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. And that's why they call him the giant, the now you know man. This is the golden voice of Liberia, the medicine of the microphone. That now you know man. Ashford the Giant Garley. It feels great to be back. I'm telling you, we are going to have all kinds of fun tonight. And as always, folks, this is your home. With that said, let me go to Information Highway and bring to you Mrs. Lexi Brooks Roberts. Mrs. Roberts, hello and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Mr. Garley. How are you?
Good. I'm too blessed to be stressed. God is good.
I saw that so the God traffic you were doing just now. Very nice.
Thank you.
That's the executive dance.
That's right. That's right.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah. We had a how would you say your weekend was great. Mine was too.
Okay.
It was just somber watching the return of the body of the late representative.
Okay.
But we, the country is still in mourning. Well, at this time, I'll do my share of the chat and turn it back to you.
Uh-huh.
We would like to say good evening to all and welcome to another beautiful Monday edition of Bridge Radio Africa with your host, Ashford the Giant Garley. We ask that you please share the podcast. We are coming to you live from 3 major platforms. That's Facebook Live, aka Bridge TV, Bridge Radio YouTube channel, and also BridgeRadioAfrica.com. You can visit Bridge Radio Africa for more information or updates on current events. Again, we say please share the broadcast as your friends are not our friends. We ask that you please be respectful of one another. We also ask that you be respectful of our host. Most importantly, we ask that you be respectful of our special guest. What you write is just as important as what you say. So please do be mindful. Grab your drink of choice or your meal of choice at this dinner time. Make yourself comfortable as we bring you a special guest of the evening. Some of you know him from the drive, but tonight he's representing the Unity Party, Mr. George P. Lobbo. Back to you, Mr. Garley.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. And I'd like to say a big welcome to Mr. Samson Gay. Gay, what's happening? How you doing tonight? He said the GQ giant, looking sharp as always. And Florence Youngson is also in the building. Ashton Carpet, Morris Johnson is in the house as well. Vivian Zokwe is also here tonight. I see Momo M. Sentiment in. I see Tembe Tamba. Mimi Liberty is in the building as well. I will also see Robert Bumble, Timothy Nan, Bravo Nima, D. Lincoln, Eugene Harris in the building, Joseph Ntoze, Robert Johnson, Vivian Zokwe again, and I see my own cousin from Tokyo, Mr. Philip Paswat is also in the building tonight. Folks, I'm telling you, we are going to do it big tonight. And again, you see this platform, Mr. Folkmayet, the mouthpiece tiller is watching as well from Liberia. And I also see Mr. James Colley Jr. watching from Canada. This platform is for every Liberian, whether you with the ruling party, the ruling establishment, and you have something to say, hey, come on board. We're here to have you on board. The opposition, political parties, this is your home. And tell just come in and feel free to express yourselves. That's what this platform is about. This is for every Liberian. Okay. Julius Wilfred Riches, welcome to the show. Vaba Salefu is in the building. Wuplated Saros Ned is also in the building as well. Listen, this platform is self-funded. We have almost $50,000 worth of equipment here that we purchased because of the passion we had for this for this industry. So it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt to show some love to British Radio, and so that we got a team on the ground in Liberia. We need to do some other things. So whatever little thing that you have, we have the Cash App and Zeal rolling up there. Do whatever you have to do to support the cause, okay? And that's why we have to try our best to make sure that we're not in the pockets of the politicians, okay? Because they all don't mean well for the country. We want to be able to speak and say what we want to say at any time without fear and favor. Alex Nibbler is in the building. So very shortly, we're going to link controls with our special guest. But before then, we're going to go back to information on how perhaps you can read a few comments, and then we'll introduce our special guest, Mrs. Roberts.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Garley. So we have Trendon in the building. We said Mr. Alpha Prophet is also here. He has a special request, just so you know, coming all the way from East Orange, New Jersey. We have Diplo Lobbo also watching. Philip Pasqua, the giant himself. Eugene Harry. Hi, aka the 9 the Golden Boy. Clara Howard, Big Boy Dead. Timothy 9 says, Kofi Olumide. Vivian Zugbe. That's my Ashford. Robert Johnson writes, this crown boy really got Dika.
Dika. They call Dika.
Dika.
He left for a long time. They call Dika. I mean, drop fish.
Okay. Eugene Harry says, that's it, bro. On point. Peter Lincoln, okay. Ooh, a move. You like your move. Timothy 9 says, Congolese Lingala music. Robert Bumble, he says, have fun, my brother. Robert Johnson, I can see you drink some happy juice. Vivian Zugbe, Vika is his name. George P. Lopez is in the building already. He's getting comfortable. Mimi Liberty, he writes. Mimi Liberty is watching with you. Momo Sentiment, we are right here to listen to our Peking. Vivian Togbe, Ashford in the house. We have Sekou Kane, the storyteller, is here. Vivian, she says, we are waiting, sir. Morris Johnson, where is Angel Morris? Alton Coffin, welcome, little brother George P. Lobbo. Samson Gay, the GQ giant himself. Nathan Clark King is here. James Colley is watching from Canada. Barbara Salifu, good evening, family. Julius Wilfred Richard, Riley, North Carolina. Unbreakable Hawaii, Love Latte Cyrus Smith says, I enjoy the dance and I hope you go dance again before you get your guest sits in studio with you. Timothy Nance, the giant, I am watching from the Middle East. Alex Nimlin is watching from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Abdullah Kasamba is watching. Agma Momo is here from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
The state where decisions are made.
Two more comments, please.
And Last but not least, we have Elder James Blythe Jr. in the building, and David Johnson says good morning. I don't know from where, but it's good morning somewhere.
Okay.
Back to you, Mr. Garley.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. The elder James C. Blythe Jr. is in the building. Selma Scott is also in the building. Moses Barkley and David Johnson. Folks, at this time, I'd like to introduce to you the tough talking, the fearless. He doesn't mean his words, and he's in the building tonight. Please join me as we welcome to you, Mr. George P. Lobbo. Mr. Lobbo, hello and welcome to Breach Radio Africa.
Thank you very much, Ashford Garley. It's a privilege to be here today. It's a privilege to join you from Phoenix, Arizona. Fellow Liberians, I want to say thank you very much. To my fellow Unity Party partisans, I also want to take this time to say thanks to all of you for being here. To the supporters of the drive, I can see you've turned out in your numbers, and I also want to take this time to say thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure to join the Giant this evening.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was fine, other than national issues back home. But other than that, I've been fine.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. George P. Lobbo from the Drive, the famous Drive program, and tonight he represents the Unity Party. Again, this platform is open to every political institution. As long as you let us know, so we'll make you on yet, and then you can speak on what is it that you have to speak on as it relates to your political institution. So again, whether you're from the ruling establishment, you're from any of the four collaborating political parties, this is your home. And I'm told that there's another alliance going on, the Rainbow Alliance. You're all welcome. It doesn't only have to be political or politics. Social issues, like you read about rape that you organized in to stop the rape against our little sisters and brothers. And you have some organization you wanted to talk about those things. You can come aboard. You want to talk about finance. How can we improve the economy in Liberia? How can you create jobs? So whatever it is that you have to talk about, just feel free to contact us. Okay, Mr. Lobo, let me give you some time to do your opening statement.
Let me take this time first and foremost, Ashford, once again, to say thanks to all the Liberians around the world that have tuned in. But I want to begin first and foremost by taking this time to extend our heartfelt condolence and deepest sympathy to the CDC-led government, to members and supporters of the late Muna Youngblood panel from District Number 9. And I also want to extend my sincere condolences to that of the government for the passing of Honorable Nangwe J. Sloan. These are difficult times for our government to lose two lawmakers in less than 2 weeks. Politics before any national interest before politics. I wanted to take this time to send out my heartfelt condolence to the government and to all of those people and citizens of the respective district. I said, take heart, be strong. The Lord will guide you through these difficult times. On another note, Ash, for me, there's nothing major to introduce myself. I'm not a stranger to major platforms, but I wanted to take this time to say to all of our mothers and our sisters and fathers out there, the outbreak of rape in our country, I've been devastated by it. It is something that gave me sleepless nights and bring chill to my skin. As a father and as a brother and as a son, I condemn hate rape to the fullest extent. To those guys perpetrating evil on the life of our young ones, I wish all our people can be able to stand up and speak out against rape. This is unacceptable in this 21st century. And other than that, Mr. Garley, it's a privilege once again to be here to share your platform. I'm glad to be here. And thanks to all of you for tuning in.
Now, speaking of the passing of two lawmakers from the CDC within weeks, you, as a member of the opposition, what do you make of this?
Mr. Garley, I do not believe in speculations. I always want to allow the facts to lead me because, as a leader, someone who comes from the community, there are a lot of different things we can consider. When someone passes, Mr. Garley, it's one of those things that you are not there. We don't know what led to their deaths. But we must not forget communities will be grieving, families have lost their loved ones. And so for me, it really breaks my heart. My only advice to the government is that for me, all lives are important. It should not just be one lawmaker life, because there are many Liberians that are losing their lives on a daily basis as a result of our government poor performance and lack of supply, lack of support for the healthcare sector. And I hope this can be a wake-up call to our national government to make the necessary investments so that quality and accessible, affordable healthcare can be provided to our people. That is my call. I would not speculate because I do not know the cause of death. As with regards to Nangbe J. Sloan, we know he's been battling other sicknesses. He had diabetes, according to what I've learned from sources close to his camp. But other than that, I would not pass judgment. I just say to the government, these are critical movements. These are difficult time for any government to lose two lawmakers in less than 2 weeks, especially, Nangbe Sloan joined the CDC in less than 2 weeks when that happened. So, and now Muna Youngblood Panel have been one of those fundamental rocks upon which the CDC stood. So it's a difficult one for them. But we are here to offer support whatever way we can as opposition metro political parties, and that's what I would say.
Well, Mr. Lobo, this is not the Liberia that I know. Back in the day when we were growing up, you can be at fault with somebody, but when there was a death in the family, you put everything aside and come together. With this politics now in Liberia, you have people bad mouthing you even in your debts. What is going on with Liberians in Liberia?
Well, Mr. Gali, I can't speak for many people. I can speak for myself. As a Liberian, as a young man, many of you who listened to the draft on last week Wednesday, I took the time to express my deepest condolences to the government and highlight some of the gains of the government with regards to their lawmakers. But you are absolutely right, Mr. Gali. In a society where people are always praying for your downfall, people see your misfortune as an opportunity for somebody else. And so, in circumstances like this, is one where someone believes now there's a vacancy in district number 9 and in district number 2 or number 3 in Sino County. So those type of people, for them, it's not going to be about showing empathy. It's about what can be done to capture that seat. So, as for me, as a young man, as a community leader, and as someone who has been involved in leadership, I am not moved by what happened because at the end of the day, I'm a father, I'm a son, and I'm a brother. I'm a Liberian before I joined the Unity Party. And as a decent human being, in difficult times like this, what must be done is to be able to show that human dignity that lies within you, where you rise above the occasion and address the issues on hand. We must understand it could have been a Unity Party lawmaker, and our expectation would have been the same from the government, from this government. So at the end of the day, Mr. Gali, I understand where you're coming from, but it will be incumbent upon every young man and every Liberian to do what is right. Mr. Gali, I have lost 2 of my own, and I know what it feels like to lose your own. And I just speak from experience. These are tough times. I wish we can unite with regards to that, and people must be remorseful. That's what I would say to them.
The voice of George Lobo with us tonight on Ashford Garley Live. And of course, this program comes on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays on Bridge Radio Africa. Tomorrow, we are going to play host to Dr. Jeremiah Wapo. Dr. Wapo, former presidential candidate just in the 2017 elections. He has a lot to talk about. I'm told he's down with the Rainbow Alliance political party, and he will be our special guest tomorrow. Mr. Lobo, last week we saw the former president of the Republic of Liberia, Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She visited the headquarters of the Unity Party. You care to bring us up to speed as to what transpired? We received mixed reactions, and one of which came from talk show host Henry Costa. What is your take?
I would take those questions in twofold. Let's take the visitation of the former president, our Standard Bearer Emeritus, first, and then we'll talk about the reaction from Costa. But Mr. Garley, let me be very, very clear to you. Ambassador Joseph Humble Newman Boakai is our political leader, whose judgment is unquestionable, and he has led our party. During difficult times, he has been the standard bearer of our party. He led us to the 2017 elections. And Mr. Garley, many people don't understand what is happening. Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who happens to be the former standard bearer and the former president of the Republic of Liberia, Madam Sirleaf, as we all know, went to National Elections Commission and went to the courts. The court ruled that Madam Sirleaf must be reinstated. So Ambassador Boakai, being a man of law, who respect the rule of law, who respect the Constitution, it was incumbent upon him to make sure that the ruling of the court must be fully implemented. Not only that, we all were aware of what happened in 2017. The Unity Party had a lot of bad blood with regards to how we lost the election to the CDC. And many of us within the party, and under the leadership of Ambassador Boakai, he believed that uniting the party is the only way forward, because one thing we all have been very clear about in the Unity Party, we cannot promise the Liberian people that we can reconcile the country and unite the country if we cannot unite in our own house, if we can unite our party. And I think it was a very good thing on his part as our standard bearer and as our leader. So as far as I'm concerned, the Unity Party executive met, and Madam Sirleaf was invited and at the party headquarters. And so that was what happened. It was in the meeting. I do not have the details of the meetings. So that's what happened. And for me, I support that decision, because at the end of the day, Mr. Garley, here's what I want people to understand. You don't have to like the Unity Party. You don't have to like us. But we can apologize to people for how they feel. At the end of the day, we remain committed to making sure that we win state power and restore Liberia. We've done it before, and we will do it again. With regards to the issue of reactions, there were misreactions. But one thing I want all of us to understand as Liberian, Mr. Garley, what is the problem with that of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf visiting her party? Every political party, there's two major goals you must accomplish. One is to contest an election and win an election. And that was achieved by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, 2 terms. And so we can't ignore that. When people beat some of us for the Unity Party government, they beat us because Ellen Johnson Sirleaf headed the Unity Party for 12 years and she headed the government. So we take those beatings. We just can't take beatings during the good time and refuse it during the bad time. So when it comes to the issue of reactions, Mr. Garley, let's be specific, since you mentioned the name of Henry Costa. Let me say this very clear to you. We all have different way of reacting to information. And I think Henry understands what happened. I am not going to go back to relitigate what have happened, because as a leader, my job, Henry referred to me as a brother, and I strongly believe that he referred to me as a brother to be able to guide him and offer advice when he's going wrong. And as a matter of fact, what I would say, Ashford, he overreacted. I wish he had spoken to me before his reaction. But again, I get where he's coming from. He feels frustrated about what happened in the past and all of that. But let me say this, Ashford. I've always said, and I said to to Henry Costa himself, that that your actions does not excuse you for what you've done, and there will be consequences for your action. And I think the only thing I'm not prepared to do now is that I think he has gotten enough of backlash. He has gotten a beating from Unity Party partisans, and I hope that Mr. Costa will learn and he would not be able to repeat what happened. Next time moving forward, I think he understands. As a matter of fact, I spoke to him lengthily today, and I just to get a feel of where he was coming from. And he told me, my man, I'm fine, my brother, everything is okay. And I told him, I said, I said, but Costa, I said, sometimes you have to understand. Some of these beatings not necessary. You know, some people don't know where to punch you. Some people might punch you in the neck. You could die from it. You know, I was one of the young men, my mom would tell you, Ashford, I don't like beating. You know how people in Africa say he used to beating. I'm one man who don't like beating because you don't know where someone's going to punch you. But at the end of the day, I want to say one thing. Costa is a young man. Sometimes he wear his emotion on his sleeves and sometimes he overreact. But at the end of the day, we all have to be able to guide him and nurture him and be able to provide advice for him and lead him down the path. I strongly believe that he can be able to make contribution to the country. But he has to decide that on his own, how he's going to go about it. So some of us, now that he referred to me as a brother, my job would be to be able to offer him the support and guidance and advice that he needs from me. And that's how I would take it. I'm not going to go any further about it. We beyond that. The Unity Party got a lot ahead of us, and we can't be held back by one statement, one comment. There've always been statements made against us, and we just going to have to move on from there and hopefully, of course, I got the message.
George Lobbo from the Unity Party. Now, Mr. Lobbo, the CPP has a new rotational chair in the name of Alexander B. Cummins. What do you make of his new portfolio, and what do you also make of his stance on the War and Economic Crimes Court?
Let me be very, very clear here. You asked, I like one thing I told someone today. I said, you know, Ashford Garley is not going to let things slide. He's going to pull from everywhere. You can expect that to come from him. But let me be very clear, Mr. Garley. That's a brilliant question. You know, Ashford, I am not a member of the ANC. I do not support Alexander Cummins. I didn't support him for president. I support the Unity Party. But having said that, we are in a collaboration, which the chairmanship happens to be rotational. Mr. Cummins is now the current chairman. Mr. Cummins is an accomplished Liberian with an international credential, which he has served one of the major international known company. So I strongly believe that Mr. Cummins, given what we've heard from many ANC supporters, including himself, what he wants to do for Liberia, given his expertise, now that he has the chairmanship of the CPP, I think this is going to be a testament to his leadership. He is going to be leading us in the upcoming senatorial elections. And I've committed fully that Alexander Cummins does enjoy our full support, especially those of us in the Unity Party. The chairman, he has my full backing. He has my full support, 100%. But it's going to be up to him to pull this off. And I won't say much about it. I wish him all the best. Ashford, you know, based on what they may have done, will be able to tell us what he can do down the road, right? So we've just given the man a tax. I think it's about time that we all rally around here, and that is one of the reasons why I'm going to remain very, very supportive of the CPP agenda. I'm going to continue to support Mr. Cummins, and let me be very clear here. Whatever he needs me for, he has my full backing. And I strongly believe, given the mandate that I received from my standard bearer, Ambassador Joseph Newman Boyka, he believes that the CPP will do our part to make sure that the CPP holds. But I want to make one thing very, very clear here today, Mr. Garley. You know, many people who criticize the Unity Party forget to understand. I think the Unity Party have shown leadership and have shown to the Liberian people that in the interest of national unity, in the interest of rescuing Liberia, many of the political parties that are in the CPP today, some of the counties that they now claiming that they are going to be contesting or that they own, we must not forget it had to take the Unity Party willingness to give up those counties. That is in the interest of saving Liberia. And so we've demonstrated beyond all reasonable doubt that we are committed to making sure the CPP work. Don't forget, in Nima today that you were talking about Tai Wongwe and Ivo Gongwe, Unity Party has a current senator there, which is Thomas Groupie, who wants to go back. So you see, so we've demonstrated our willingness to give. But at some point in time, it's just how much can we give? How much can you take from one party? And when we are giving, people who are receptive must be understanding of the fact that we are willing to give. And they should reciprocate the goodness that we have exhibited. So sometimes when people go after the Unity Party with statements, And then some of us will say, but come on now, we've demonstrated beyond all reasonable doubt that we are supportive of this process. And that's where we are. Now, let me come to the issue of the War and Economic Crimes Court. Mr. Garley, I think I've been very, very consistent with my position. My position on the War and Economic Crimes Court is that I support it fully. I strongly believe that the issue of justice is cardinal to the growth and development of our country. I strongly believe that ending the culture of impunity in our country is essential to our economic development and peace and security in our country. So I'm 100% for it. But what I am not for is people using the War Crimes Court to go after certain people while shielding their own rebels or their own generals and their own fighters. If I have my way, I strongly believe we need to be able to investigate from 1979 arrest riot. You can't put people cheering in the street with false information and people lose their life because certain people want to state power. We need to go as far back as 1979. We need to understand what happened. Because history tells us, Mr. Garley, it said for the very first time, the nation woke up to violence. It was so tense that President Lobbo wanted to leave. How different was it after April 14, 1979, April 12, 1980, the president's assassinated? Many people lost their lives. Go down the road, the history, 13 men shot on the pole. There comes the Nimba raid, there comes the 1985 coup, where many people were killed. I remember the Nimba massacre and so many other massacres that followed. So we can't let this off the hook. What I don't support is people want to discuss the War Crime Court against people who they felt took them off. People want the War Crime Court to only cover a portion of certain people who got them out of power. I'm not for that. I want the War Crime Court to begin the independent investigation of those who introduced the culture of violence in our country, so that the young men will be taught that never again shall we pursue the path of violence. That the only way to be able to ascend to democratic power is through the ballot boxes. We must disagree fearlessly. We must battle. We must fight. But let us fight on the issues while we maintain respect and civility for each other. And that is my position, Mr. Garley. So I support the War and Economic Crimes Court.
Again, the voice of Mr. Lobbo. Mr. Lobbo, you said the Unity Party demonstrated leadership, but others have criticized the same leadership of the Unity Party. The leadership said they were going to go after corruption. As a matter of fact, they said corruption was vampire. Then later they said enemy of the state. Millions were squandered at no cost. The leadership took responsibility of that we didn't get our money back. But yet you're talking about the demonstration of leadership from the Unity Party.
Ashford, let me be very, very clear on the issue of corruption. Ashford, I've learned to make friends with a lot of different people. I spoke to a Nigerian professor once, and he told me, he said, let me tell you, George, he said, when something becomes a norm in society and it is accepted, when you make no effort to battle it, people don't care about it. What do I mean by that? Corruption has been a norm in Liberia now for too long. He told me, he said, but when you begin to tackle corruption, he said, people tend to talk about it. And what do I mean by that? Let me get this scenario, Mr. Garley. He even went on to say, he said, over 170 billion have gone missing in Nigeria. So Nigerians accept corruption. He said, but when Muhammad Buhari came to power and began to tackle corruption, 700 million was found in the house of the finance minister. Money was being repatriated to Nigeria. Today, Nigerians are talking corruption, right? Now let's bring it home. In Liberia, nothing has been done to fight corruption in actuality. And prove me, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Now, Madam Salif come to power and say, I will fight corruption as a public enemy number one. Now, we must not forget, Mr. Garley, the former information minister, Mr. Boble, what was he dismissed? Was he not prosecuted for corruption? the former deputy police director, Munasie. I can go down the list. But because of the show tonight, I just want to set some basic facts here. In the Republic of Liberia, you see, fighting corruption, Mr. Garley, when you're fighting something, it takes time, right? But what you want to look at, what were the measures, what were the instruments being put in place to be able to make sure that you have a successful fight? When America is going to attack a country, they found other neighboring bases to use their airstrip. They move their troops, they move their ammunitions to get prepared, right? So let's look at Liberia. What happened under the Unity Party government? We sent a bill to Congress for the approval of the establishment of the fast-track court. What was that fast-track court intended to do? Was to fight financial crimes and corruption, to prosecute those accused of corruption. Now let us leave that. Let's come to actions taken. The former managing director to MPA, the former managing director to RIA. Now, Ashford, name one government in the Republic of Liberia since independence who made effort to fight corruption, who fire over 10% as a result of corruption. Now, let me give you some basic statistics here today. It was under the Unity Party government that the sitting speaker, the man who has the first branch of government, was brought to court for corruption. It was under the Unity Party government that the party's chairman was brought to court for corruption. I can go on and on. The issue of NOCA. When we talk about government, Mr. Garley, it does not mean that the government was perfect. No government is ever going to be perfect on this earth. No. There will always be people, no matter how strong the laws are, there are always going to be people who will find a way to beat the system. So what you do is how you deal with those who beat the system. That is what is important. So on the issue of that, Mr. Garley, NOCA is one of those things. As a Unity Party partisan, I've been very firm on NOCA. I said if you wanted to prosecute Ellen, use NOCA. But again, Mr. Garley, we must not forget though, in the Republic of Liberia, crimes are not transferable. If you are appointed as the managing director of an organization, you are responsible for what happened in that organization. So that is something we can't forget. Now, we must not forget also that NOCA, I know Liberians always like to make the argument with the part that favors them. But Mr. Garley, let's also help educate the people. When NOCA was established, NOCA first managing director was not Charles Salif, was not Robert Salif. You and I know that. It was Israel Akisai and leadership. They were dismissed before Robert Salif went there. My job here today is not to make the case for what happened. NOCA is one thing I strongly believe. Both the executive branch of government and the legislative branch of government screw up on NOCA because the legislature allowed people at NOCA to pay themselves huge salaries, huge bonuses, which I would not have done. NOCA is one of those circumstances and those scenarios that I said, if I was opportune to have been in position of making decision, NOCA would not, that mistake that happened to NOCA would not have happened. And you are absolutely correct, Mr. Garley. Liberians have the right to question that, especially the amount of money that we learned was went missing. It didn't really go missing because what the guys did, Mr. Garley, the boys were paying themselves huge bonuses, huge salaries. They were just traveling around the place. So the mismanagement of the funds at NOCA is something that I'm completely against. And if I had to do it all over again, I definitely do it all over again. So we cannot ignore that one thing. But let us also not forget, what about all the other efforts that were made? What about all the other people that were dismissed? So there were efforts made. I strongly believe, Mr. Garley, in as much as we know government is continuity, this is where I expected the CDC government to have come to power. The government that succeeded the government that was accused of corruption being terrible, to say, you know what, gentlemen, the first order of business will be to pass the fast track bill. Let's establish the fast track court and let's prosecute those who are accused of corruption. But it's unfortunate that have not happened. So again, Mr. Garley, in the previous government, people were dismissed for corruption. People were at least prosecuted. The current CDC lawmaker from district number 15 was paying restitution. Abu Kamal for corruption. Today, he's a lawmaker in the CDC government. So we must not forget that when we want to speak to the facts about this issue. Which one of the government created an open budget system? It's a unity party government. Why was that done? To promote transparency and enhance accountability. Before, we didn't know what was in the budget. We didn't have the ability to question our government. Now we know what is in the budget. The reason why some of us today can make the argument, and that we also passed the Freedom Information Act, which grant us the right to have access to those information. So there were steps taken, Mr. Garley. We needed to do more. That is my argument on that issue. I strongly believe that more could have been done. That is my position on that.
Now, you also talk about the demonstration of leadership under the Unity Party-led government. You see, when you're on the outside looking in, you see all the wrongdoings, and then when you get into power, you start to do the same old thing you were accusing others of. The Unity Party-led government accused Tolbert of nepotism. The Unity Party-led government accused Samuel Dole of tribalism. They called Charles Taylor the murderer. And by the time the Unity Party came to power for 12 years, nepotism didn't stop. Tribalism didn't stop. How do you reconcile that?
Mr. Garley, let me be very frank with you today. You see, when you make the argument on the issue of nepotism and on the issue of legality, it becomes two different statements. Why it is true that because my name is George Lobbo, if my dad and myself got the same name anyway, maybe you might mistake one of us. But let's assume my dad was a minister, right? If a government was to appoint me to go work as a cadet at the central bank, will you say that's nepotism because my dad is friend with the president? But here's my point on this issue, Mr. Garley. If we want to be able to pay government, which I think we should do, we should be able to use previous government as a measuring stick, right? Now let's look at the Unity Party government. I'm glad you talk about the Chancellor government. Then let's look at the Chancellor government. Bob Taylor was in government. We know how many Chancellor relatives were in government in key position, including his son, who was the head of the ATU and all. One was to FDA, I remember that. But here's my point when it comes to the issue of nepotism. That's where I always say, Ashford, I would do something differently. One of the reasons is to avoid this type of conversation, because we can't question the issue of nepotism, given the fact that Madam Salif's son, Rob and Fomba work in the government, or two sons.
And Charles.
No. Charles Salif was the central bank before his man was elected president. So let's not forget that. His son, he was there. I want us to speak to the facts. So Rob and Fomba, those were the two. Charles was at central bank. So we must not get to that. But let's proceed. No matter what, her two sons were staying in government. So on the issue of their nepotism, you can make that argument. Now, another argument that can be made for them from a legal perspective, which I'm not a lawyer, I'm not going to make that for them. Somebody can say, are they qualified? Were they given the job based on their competence or based on their ability to perform? Here's what I think, Mr. Garley. What I strongly believe is that I want a system that is based on merit. I want a system that is not based on connection. But again, we must not forget, Mr. Garley. These things happen. You can curtail it. You work around it as the president to make sure that you don't make it seem that your government is all by your circle. Now, if we want to talk about the issue of nepotism, as compared to that of the Tolbert's government, the True Party government, or as the MPP and Madam Salif, I think, Mr. Garley, in all honesty, the Unity Party government gave more opposition job than any government in the Republic of Nigeria.
Does that make it right to do?
It does not make. You heard my position. Okay. I didn't say it was right, but I'm just saying. Can we also say?
But the fact that you try to justify why? Go ahead.
I didn't justify it. I just told you that I would have done it different. I told you you can't justify nepotism given the fact that her two sons were in government. That is not justification. So yes, you can make the argument that was nepotism, because if two of her sons were in government, regardless of how qualified they are, if so, what nepotism is giving your relatives job, right? Bringing your relatives within the government. So her two sons were in government. So what do I say? Should I lie that they were not in government? So yes, it did exist. But again, Mr. Garley, here's one thing you can't do when you're looking at when you make these arguments about government, right? You also want to be able to say how many of her relatives were in government, how many of Chancellor relatives were in government, How many of Samuel Doe relatives were in government? So we look at those separate things. How many oppositions were given the opportunity to serve in the Samuel Doe government? How many oppositions were incorporated in the NPP government? How many opposition held key positions in the Unity Party government? I think when we make that argument from that perspective, it turns to change a lot of different things. And what we're not prepared to do as Liberians is we're not willing to make that argument. We want to make the argument that her two sons work in government, knowing the fact that two persons in government does not make the whole government. Would I have done that? Maybe no. She did it. Maybe I could say it was poor judgment on her part, giving her record with regards to nepotism and criticism of government. I think that's something, if I was in her position, would not have done. But again, Mr. Garley, they say ministers, especially people in the executive, work at the will and pleasure of the president. Now, that is the president's constitutional power. So while we can criticize it and question it, but it also speaks to the president's constitutional power that's given him. Maybe I think we can also reform the constitution and make it clear that as long as you hold a chief executive position, that your relatives must not be appointed by you to positions of appointment in cabinet. Maybe I think that's how we can tailor the constitution so we prevent future occurrence of such things. But I'm not here to support it. It did happen, and that's what I'm saying. But also, I also want to acknowledge the amount of other oppositions that were given the chance to serve in that government. That's my position on it.
Okay, the next one is a big one. I think this one going to drive us at the top of the hour where we can begin taking questions. Tell us about the Liberian economy and the way forward under the CDC led government. Mr. Lobbo.
You see, Mr. God is a brilliant.
Just before you do that, some people were so generous to make some contribution. Mr. Amos Weaver, he said he's doing what you told him to do.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we also see the
Jebeda. Yes.
And then we see O'Neill J. Hen.
Ryan. Don't worry, those are the draft people are here. And let me Ashford, give me a minute. Let me say this. To those of you who were not on the draft earlier today, I said this platform is self-funded. Mr. Garley have been doing a great job. I think we must support each other. And I made an appeal to all of you supporters of the draft. Why I'm on here today, I'll be expecting Mr. Garley by the time I leave this podcast to be able to tell us how well we supported his platform. So I will be appealing to you, please. That is the Cash App number. Every little thing, let me use his voice. He said, "What? Everyone? Please, let me borrow your voice. What is it?"
Any dirty water can put a fire.
Every dirty water can put a fire. So please, I beg you. My people from the draft, they say the draft people get big mouth. He talked about his supporters. And I think today I want us, by the time we get to the end of this show, I want Mr. Garley to feel the presence of what the draft is capable of doing. And Mr. Garley, thank you for acknowledging those people. I think you should give it some time. Don't acknowledge them now later on. So I just wanted to say thanks to those of you who have followed the instruction. And I've respected that. Thank you very much, Mr. Garley. So go ahead with your next question. Let's proceed. Thank you for that.
That is the Liberian economy and the way forward under the CDC-led government. If you were to offer some pieces of advice, what would it be, Mr. Lobbo, as economic advisor to President Weah?
That's a very big question, the way you asked. As economic advisor to President Weah, the very first thing would be to fire Samuel Doe, fire the central bank governor, because the people responsible for the two major policies that should influence the economy, I don't think they have what it takes to be able to get the economy going. So that's the very first thing I'll tell you straight up. Samuel Doe needs to go. The central bank governor needs to go. We need people in there that know what needs to be done. That's the first beginning. But let's come on a real practical note. One thing I will very first be very honest to the president is that the president needs to embark on a policy that is geared towards fiscal discipline and responsible spending. The president needs to engage in massive spending, wasteful spending cuts. We need to be able to redirect resources to where they are needed. We need to be able to cut wasteful spending in our national budget and put funding to where it is needed. Ashford, it breaks my heart to know that nurses are contacting COVID-19 not because of their recklessness, not because of their denial, but as a result of lack of PPEs. It breaks my heart to know that a government that received $17 million from the World Bank and IMF to fight COVID. That nurses today will be coming down with COVID as a result of lack of PPE. This is so disheartening, and I strongly believe that a government that knows what needs to be done. If the government was broke because the government moved $10 million during the recasting of the budget to public works, if the government was that broke, how do you take $10 million from the Ministry of Health to public works? How does it make sense, Mr. Garley? So here's what I would have offered to this government. Number one thing, fiscal discipline is a way forward. Cutting wasteful spending. But government needs to engage in activities that create revenue. What do I mean by that, Mr. Garley? Government needs to be able to diversify the Liberian economy. Liberian economy in the past have been heavily based on the extractive sector of the economy. In this 21st century, the extractive sector no longer is paying out what it used to pay out before. So governments need to be creative. What do I mean by that? Government needs to look at other sectors, other areas that we can be able to expand the economy, create jobs, because when we create more jobs, government will be able to generate more revenue. Government needs to create economic activities. Now, let me give you one simple scenario. The government brags about the agricultural sector, which provide enormous amount of opportunity for job creation, low-tech job, low-skill jobs in the agricultural sector. We need a government that understands that diversifying the economy, looking at the agricultural sector, the tourism sector, is something that the government can invest in and will yield return. But it's unfortunate that we have a government that is is borrowing more than they can afford. The government borrows. It's like, let me tell you, Ashford, here I want to put this in the most simplest context so people get it. The CDC government is like the guy who borrows money to take a girl on an expensive date. You getting me?
Mm-hmm.
So you borrow money just to meet your high expenditures. So why keep high expenditures? Why keep a budget that you don't have the revenue to support? That is the problem. The reason why the government cannot even be able to create any kind of wiggle room to say, let's put 20 million in the agriculture sector. Let's put 15 million in small businesses. Let's put $40 million into the rubber plantation, into the rubber industry. Or let's invest $50 million to get LPRC going again. Let's invest in the cocoa and coffee industry. The government broke, Mr. Garley. So the government needs to take responsible steps. And to be honest, I don't see this government being able to do it. So, at this particular junction, we just have to be hopeful. I listened to someone from Grand Cape the other day. He said, the change came, but the hope left behind. I hope the Liberian people can help the president find his contact books. Maybe that will bring the hope. But at this particular point in time, anybody who's sitting there and hoping that George will have what it takes to turn the economy around, you must be living on one of the 17 continents that Jefferson Koji talked about. So my advice to them is be very simple. Be fiscally disciplined, institute massive wasteful spending cuts. Be realistic with the budget. If you don't have the revenue, you don't have the resources, you don't need to be setting a budget of 526 million just to say we set up a 520 budget. Set a realistic budget. If your core revenue, your revenue envelope is in the tune of 390 million, cut wasteful spending. Give people what you can afford. But you can't live above your means, Mr. Garley. Cut your quota according to your measurement. Other than that, you will die struggling. That is my advice to them, Mr. Garley.
But the president feels Samuel doing such an awesome job.
Mr. Garley, if Samuel is doing such an awesome job, that's not going to be up to me. Prior to the coming of the COVID, prior to COVID-19, you need to, we all Liberians know what the reports have been. Read all the various financial institution reports on Liberia. An economy that was projected to grow at minus 4.4%. Is that an economy that the Ministry of Finance will tell you he's doing well? An economy that banks have been liquidated every 2-3 months. Liberians no longer trust the banks to put money in it. When banks have been liquidated, it just means no money in the bank. Now think about it, Mr. Garley. There's over 28 billion Liberian dollars currently in circulation in the Republic of Liberia. But banks are still being liquidated. The day before yesterday, I got reports from friends of mine at the LBDI that the bank was broke. So every time the bank print money, that right now, the 4 billion that were printed, people think the money government is going to, no. The government is going to make payments to those banks. Government owe those banks already. Soon the government put the money, Liberians in the country that have money in the banks, that have accounts, You know what they do? Every time small money get in the account, the people don't trust their government ability to repay. The people take their money out of the banks. So the banks are always broke. Apart from that, Ashford Garley, we've seen it. The central bank also have been broke. If the bankers' bank, which happens to be the central bank, have been liquidated. So what about commercial banks? The program that the CDC government is enrolled in with the IMF. What are the requirements to qualify for that program? Is you must, one, have difficulty with balance of payment. The special drawing right program that the government is enrolled in is because the government cannot meet payment on time. So they had to enroll the government into that program. So when I hear my CDC friends telling me that their government is doing well, I want them to show the number, show us the data, Mr. Garley. For me, I do not speculate. I don't discuss government or emotion, on opinion. I discuss government on the fact. Tell me, since you came to power, talk about foreign direct investment, talk about job created, talk about what have been done to diversify the economy, talk about how much your economy have grown by. Tell me where inflation is at this particular point in time. Then I know the economy is performing. Now what Samuel Twist say on Curious Street when you drink at Dai, I ain't got time for that.
Okay. Again, folks, this is Mr. George Lobbo. Now, Mr. Lobbo, we want to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about unity. Unity party, unity means togetherness. Now, the question would then become, if you can be united within your own party, how can you unite the country as a whole? So keep that in mind as we take a break. And while on our break, we'll play the song by Lucky Dube, and he calls this one Together as One.
Watching is having a problem. Watching say the cash have no money, letting her to see my suit. Can you move it down small? Watching, you got issue as well to go
Too many people hate apartheid. Why do you like it? Too many people hate apartheid. Why do you like it? Hey, you Rastaman, hey, European, Indian man, we gotta come together as one. Hey, you Rastaman, hey, European, Indian man, we gotta come together as one. Hey, you Rastaman, hey, European, Indian man, we gotta come together as one. Don't forget the Japanese.
Okay, that's the voice of Lucky Dube the late. May his soul continue.
And do you know his name is Lucky Tamadubi? Get a Gisi people some credit, man.
Rest in peace. Now, Mr. Lobbo, you are here in the diaspora and you form part of the Unity Party. And I remember when you joined the Unity Party, you came to offer support with the media team. And first off, there was a split within the Unity Party in the diaspora. I'm talking about the U.S. and Canada. Does that split still exist?
Mr. Garley, let me be very, very clear, and I'm grateful for this question. And to fellow Unity Party partisans listening to us here tonight, I want to say thanks to all of you for being here. But let's get to the issue on this question. As for the Unity Party is a very big organization. There will always be people within the organization that will have difficulties. There will always be people who believe that they see things differently. As a matter of fact, you know, Ashford, when we went into the 2017 elections, the Unity Party itself at home had major split. You know, we all are aware of that. So I think that also spilled over. But the notion that I came to the Unity Party was not true. Ashford Garley, the only political party that I hold an ID card for before was the Liberian Action Party. And so those who don't know, it was an agreement which brought the Action Party to the Unity Party, so which made us one. That's why the symbol of the Unity Party today is the rooster which comes from the Liberian Action Party. And that was the agreement we entered into. So definitely I became a member. But as a result of when we speak in terms of the campaign, in 2017, Mr. Garley, sometimes I try to be very, very, because in as much as life have been fortunate for me in organizations, I like to always remain humble. In 2017, when the campaign was ongoing, I was appointed in America as the social media coordinator, Unity Party USA Canada. And as far as I'm concerned, I was appointed by the leadership, which was recognized in Liberia. So there was no question about it. And on the basis of that, I served my party. And after the election, I remained a Unity Party partisan. And I think today in the 21st century, in 2020, Mr. Garley, I think the issue of which party George Lobbo belonged to, I think it cannot be questioned anymore. But let me say this to you, Mr. Garley. There were people who had disagreement within the party.
So you agree that there's a split within the Unity Party?
I'm going to say there's a split. There is a fraction within the party, especially in the diaspora.
But you have members of the Unity Party in the diaspora who are not happy, Mr. Lobbo.
You say what, Mr. Garley?
Members of the Unity Party here in the diaspora who are not happy.
Mr. Garley, but I think I've been very clear with my utterance here tonight. I'm acknowledging that there are people within the party, there are Unity Party members who have disagreements about a lot of things in the party. But let me set the record very clear here, Mr. Garley. Many of them who have problem, I know maybe it could be a follow-up question, but I would like to can I explain on this a little bit? There are certain group of Unity Party partisans who believe that the current leadership honor our great chairman, the hardworking Cape Dwayne, Erasmus, myself, Bendu Hunter, Powerful Chair Lily, Sis Louise, and all the entire leadership structure. Many of them have disagreed, Mr. Garley. But let me say one thing to you, Ashford. What I'm not going to do tonight is very simple. The leadership that I am part of, I was not appointed. That's one thing, Mr. Garley. I was elected at the Unity Party mini convention in Minnesota, and I strongly believe if you have disagreement with the party, and if you love the party, the best thing to do now is for us as Unity Party partisans. Thank God you saw Madam Ellen Johnson leave to the party headquarters. That is a sign of unity. And I want to take this time as one of those leaders to call on those Unity Party partisans, those members who feel disenfranchised, whatever their positions are, whatever they hold. I think this is the time that we all can coexist. The government that I'm part of, the administration that I'm part of, is not going to be there forever. It's not going to be the one that will take us to 2023 election.
Mr. Lobbo.
Let me finish my statement.
Mr. Lobbo.
Go ahead.
Mr. Lobbo. Don't you see this as misrepresentation of the word unity in the absence of group of members? I mean, due-paying members who appear to be disgruntled. You went in the absence and hold a mini convention, and you called this, you were elected?
Mr. Garley, let me say one thing. Here's what I would say to you. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, and here are the facts. I can't speculate on what someone said. I have to stick to the facts and what I know. And what I would say to that effect, Mr. Garley, is very simple. The convention that was held in Minnesota was graced by our standard bearer. Do you remember that? The current leadership was ushered in by our standard bearer, who happens to be the leader of the political party, who happens to be the political leader of the Unity Party, which was Ambassador Joseph Humbo Numa Boyka. Ambassador Boyka was the one who ushered in the new leadership.
So what was the take of Ambassador Boyka when you heard about this play? I'm pretty sure you heard about this play. What was his take?
Let me tell you what happened, Ashford. This is why I'm giving you the chance. If you want me to explain it, and I will be fine to do that for you. So here's what happened, Mr. Garley. There were Unity Party partisans who, prior to the convention, had disagreements of where the convention should be held and when the convention should be held. Mr. Garley, here's what I want to say to you. Here's what is interesting for you to know. Some of the people today who are complaining, do you know that they voted in the election, in the decision making for the convention to be held? Do you know that? So the next time you speak to them, I want you to ask them, were you in meetings when the issue of the convention was being held? Did you vote when they were voting for the convention to be held in the location and the date? Did you exercise your political right? In democracy, Mr. Garley, they say majority will always carry the rule. Now, let me tell you what is interesting. Do you know that I didn't vote for the convention? Are you aware of that? I didn't vote for it. And some of the people who today, Mr. Garley, who are speaking, participated in the process. They were in the election. I didn't vote. But let me say this to you. Here's the problem, Mr. Garley. It's like going to a battle and say, oh, let come fight, Mr. Lobbo, I want you can only fight in Detroit in your neighborhood. No, it don't work like that. So here's what happened. When they had this dissatisfaction, the standard bearer constituted a committee before he left Liberia. You won't tell me, Mr. Garley, that our standard bearer will leave Liberia, come to the United States to attend a convention that he believes is quasi and will preside over the convention, knowing very well that the convention is illegal. Is that what you're saying? So those Unity Party partisans, they must be honest to themselves. They participated in the process, Mr. Garley. They lost the election on the date, on the venue. When they lost, guess what? For me, I was not afraid, Mr. Garley. I tell people in the Unity Party, you want to host a convention in the middle of in Hawaii or in the middle of the ocean, do it. I will go there if I want to contest for any position. I will beat you there. Because you know what? I have the confidence in myself. And so some of them were happy, Mr. Garley. I paid $300 to register for the position that I was vying for. I think they should have done the same. So there's no show of people, you lose an election, you go to a process, you don't get your way, and you feel disenfranchised and you feel you can. So let me show you something and to our audience because I want to set the record straight. Folks, this is the Unity Party convention here. And that is the standard bearer, Ambassador Boyka, right there. Right? That is the National Youth Chairman. And that is the other chair. So it was not a quasi convention. You had our standard bearer at the convention. Personally, you know what I think, Mr. Garley? And I want to take this medium because as a leader, my job is to be able to reconcile the party. Or whatever disagreement they have, I would say to those people, you still have a chance. This leadership will end. There have been a constitution committee that have been constituted. I think they should work and come to the convention, the next convention, and let them vote us out. Win us at the convention. I don't think what we should be doing now as a Unity Party, our folks in Liberia are reconciling the party, and some of us are committed to that. And that is why I would say to all of them, I wish them nothing but the best. I hope all of us. Mr. Garley, people flew from DC. People came from Canada to attend the convention. So the standard bearer left Liberia. He came to attend the convention. The National Youth Chair came and attended the convention. So what will you say to the Ambassador Boyka? Are you telling me you want to question the leadership of our standard bearer? Is that what they're saying to you? So, Mr. Garley, here's how we end this conversation. I am inside. It's like you're in the house, Mr. Garley. It's raining outside. Somebody came to the party. They were not allowed inside. And they say, Mama, come outside, let's fight. Listen, tell them to come inside, and then we can have the conversation and make a decision. We'll fight. I am inside. I was elected. I registered. I left from Arizona. I went to Minnesota. I contested, and I won my seat. I won my position. As a matter of fact, the good thing, I was not appointed. I took an oath. I was a minister by the Senate Bureau, who happens to be the political leader of my party. And as far as I'm concerned, I was elected for a time period, and that has to happen. And when the time is over, you can come and vote me out. And that is all I would say to you. I can't go back and forth.
Okay, we want to go to the telephone line now. Perhaps you have questions for Mr. Lobbo. The telephone number to call is 248-979-1718. Mrs. Roberts, will you please pin the number? We already have a caller on the line. I believe it's Mr. Alex Jones. Hello and welcome to the show, Alex. You're live on the radio.
Mr. Garley, and hello, Mr. Lobbo. It's such a pleasure to speak to you two fine gentlemen. But again, I just want to say that this is one of the most objective shows Liberia have ever had, political, social. So congratulations, Mr. Garley. As far as Mr. Lobbo, I want to say that you look very presidential. You look like a congressman. Keep up the hard work. I think you're a very vigorous individual, and I must compliment you for that. There were a couple of questions I have and comments regarding what you stated earlier. One, you asked the question about government fighting corruption or prosecuting people. You said no government has done so. I don't think that is correct. As for tradition, and that's how Chancellor was in prison in the United States, so it's wrong. Also, you said that Charles Salif, well, you said Ellen had only 2 sons in the government. You're also wrong on that point, because when the president takes over, the president, regardless of who is in power, the president has to either resubmit them or renominate them. So he was, in fact, given a higher position, deputy governor for operations at the central bank, which is one of the highest positions in the country. So yes, she was appointed. I know that Ellen told Mahdi Hassan from Osfon after Zero that she didn't fire him, but essentially when a new president comes in, you have the responsibility to appoint. So that was completely wrong. My main question here is, you said that you support the War and Economic Crimes Court. I want to know if you already read the document. And if so, if you haven't, I encourage you to go and read the document, because I don't know how you can support a document that the very United Party took and put in the trash. They never implemented it. In fact, Ellen refused to receive it. Besides, 2 other individuals a sanction in that document.
Asking me a question.
Ure is also in the document as causing grave economic and other crimes to Liberia. So how could you support these individuals at the same time that you support the War and Economic Crime Code, which is part of the TRC recommendation that these people were not sick, and in fact, these people should be prosecuted. And then lastly, you mentioned that Ellen was the one who brought about the budget disclosure. Maybe the audience, I think they need to understand that was part of the HIPAA agreement, that the countries had to publicize their budgets and so forth. So that was not credited. But the main thing here is, you say those information were available. So I want you to tell the audience today, how much did Charles Salif make? How much did Amar Kone make? Since those information you claim, you're doing a fine job, and again, you have a lot of respect for you, Mr. Lobbo. So I will sit back and give other people the chance to ask questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The voice of Mr. Alex Jones from Florida. The last 4 digits of your number, 9620. Tell us the name, please.
Hey, how you doing, Mr. Garley? This Alana King.
Hey, welcome to the show, Alana.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me on, man. I want to say to the future president, George Lobbo, he looked great in that suit. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Everybody got a precious suit.
Yeah, and I just want to say to George Lobbo, I know sometimes we have a saying back in Africa, say you have to play fool to gain wisdom. But there's no wisdom that intelligent. You know, I wish my 8-year-old son grew up to be like him. You understand me? But Mr. Lobbo, I wish you could join the party that Otavio founded, our party, so we can go back to Liberia and give a new birth to the country, because we need brilliant minds People were intelligent to pull that country from the slum. There's no way you should be following beyond like Joseph Boakai that been into politics before even George Weah was born. And what breaks my heart, he didn't even build a bridge for Lopa County, like even like the one Yega Koluba and Yombi Kanga built in Grand Bassa. And and for you to be sitting out here and talking about Joseph Boakai is a standard bearer, it's an insult to intelligent young people like you. You understand me, Mr. Lobbo? So I just wish you could change your mind and follow behind, come and join our party that was funded by Otavio Gilman, and let's go and dig. Thanks for bringing me on, and I love this soup.
Thank you. Okay, we have 0562. Tell us the name, please.
Hi, my name is Shedrick Johnson, and I'm calling from.
Hold on, Shedrick. Shedrick, please hold on. If you are in queue and you're not speaking, would you please mute your phone? I don't want to cut you off. Please mute your phone. Go ahead, Shedrick.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for.
You say his name is Shedrick? His name?
Yeah, Shedrick.
Shedrick. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to make a statement. I heard everything that Mr. Lobbo just said, especially concerning the war crime code or whatever economic code that they want to establish in Liberia. My statement is the TRLC was a misstep made by the commission to bring the crisis to a closure. The commission did not do a good job because in the first place, the commission went instead of the commission in the second phase of the commission work of creating a court case to do the prosecution, the commission decided to pass judgment. And that was a misstep for the commission because you cannot pass a judgment on the sitting president that also constituted the commission. And so my question here is, if you agree that there must be a trial and there must be a full closure to the crisis in Liberia, will you consider the commission or work as a second phase by creating a court case, or should we start all over in order to bring the crisis to an end? I thank you. That's my question.
Okay. We have for 9603. Tell us your name, please.
Yes, my name is Nathan Coyne from Princeton, New Jersey.
Welcome to the show. Mr. Lobbo is listening.
Yes, good. Thank you, Ashford. How are you doing, Josh? I call you Josh because I look at you as the general brother. I'm the one.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it. I'm the little brother. You're right, Nathan.
Madam Salif, somebody that dearly respect the role she played at the time. Even the ALP, of which I'm a member, the ANC, why they were gathering to form a union, to form a strong coalition. President Salif, the standard bearer at the time of your party, or emeritus, was campaigning against the very coalition that she had brought to power. That in fact, while we were campaigning for VP Boakai, Madam Salif was campaigning for George Weah. Are you now upset that Kota the way he did? I don't like what he did, to be very frank. We don't watch our profile, but what Madam Salif did to campaign for George Weah, to take shovel at the Bon Country, Lopa border, to break ground. Do you think members of us should reconcile that in a civil? Reconcile, or should we even including the party? To include in the party, we got to create a new brain, but not a brain that follows Helen Salif. Because I look out, to be honest, as a betrayal. I look out as somebody who's almost like I can't process it. I'm disturbed. I'm disappointed that the women that we supported, because of how we supported GMB, we go and support. We are supporting members of the coalition.
Thank you.
She should be forgetting Should we forgive her? You know.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Asking whether the Unity Party should forgive Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Again, we want to go to 3746. Tell us your name.
I'm Kesley Dava, and I'm calling from Texas.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garley, and thanks to my brother George Lobbo in the studio there. Mine is really not a question, it's just a comment.
Go for it.
I want to thank, my brother, thanks for your expose thus far. You know, I'm seeing a couple of young people calling and asking that we as young people should go and send things all over again. With no disrespect to the young people, but I would like for some of these young people to just tell me just give me one example of a country that has been entirely led by young people. Just one example, and then I will follow that decision. Our old people say we should always stay on the old mat to plant the new mat. If we young people are actually serious, very, very serious, and we want a very good Liberia, what we can do is to keep going in there one at a time or in each number if possible and get the old people out gradually. But if we say we want to do this thing like we just go in entirely as young people, we might lead to what we are facing with the disaster culture we are. And we will be a very big mistake. Why it is true that the older ones are not 100% correct, but there are some of them that to a certain extent we can hope on to make a change. This is an advice. If we go in there entirely as young people and say we want to get rid of all the old people and start all over as young people, there will be a disaster. I can assure you that Liberia will go nowhere. With no disrespect to the young people, but I can tell you that it will not work. I'm a young man. I'm very someone of leadership. But if we say we want to do leadership that way to take over from the country, I can tell you it will not work. Thank you very much, Mr. Garley. And Lobbo, I want to tell you thank you for what you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Lobbo, one last question, then you can come up with some responses.
Okay.
Hello, caller. 5983. Tell us your name.
Yeah, Lodi, how you doing?
Hey, Lodi, what's up, man? How you doing? Thank you.
Mine is little statement I want to make to the Liberian people.
What's his name?
Thank you, Mr. Lobbo. Thank you very much, brother Garley. Let me tell you today, Lodi. I am not a fan of Ellie when she was leader, when she was president of the Republic of Liberia. I wasn't a fan of Ellie, and I never let Ellie because of the late Jackson Hebdo's issue. But let me come in defense of Ellie today. When people, Liberian people, if Ellie have not supported or support George Weah in Liberia, yesterday, day before yesterday in Liberia, by this time, Liberia would be at war, or Liberians would be at war with one another. They all did play her political card or rightly to come on to tell it. Let him lead. Don't remember during Charles Taylor administration, Charles Taylor accused President Weah. And now we are seeing it. So it is good. You're not praised the Omar so that at least we have seen the way and the behavior of George Weah already. So you don't forget about her. You don't forget about Ellie. Ellie played a smart way to Weah to be the president instead of us going back to another 50 or 20 years. Thank you very much for accepting me, Brother Garley.
Okay. We have for 774-318-1142.
Yes.
Tell us your name.
My name is James Momo.
Welcome to the show.
My name is James Momo.
Go ahead, Mr. Mo. You live on the radio. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to say thank you to my brother George Lobbo. He spoke, he responded to the questions maturely, and he spoke expansion, reconciliation. Now that we are discussing reconciliation, I want to find out from Mr. Lobbo, what is United Party doing with respect to reconciling with our former party chairman, Women Pay? That is the question.
Thank you. Mamita, you live on the radio.
Hello.
Mr. Garley, that's it now.
Okay, three other callers were making statement. They didn't have question.
Okay.
Mamita, you live on the radio.
Yeah, I think there's a noise at the background, so I can't hear you at all. Okay, I think the person. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Mami.
I just heard a gentleman saying, if Ellen wasn't going to do that, there was going to be a war. Yeah, let's stop. Yeah, let's call a spade and stop beating around bush. Ellen didn't do it because of war. Ellen is a warlord. So for somebody to come in and say Ellen is afraid of war, no, Ellen is not afraid of war. Ellen wanted somebody to come on that would be in your favor and not bring war crime to prosecute for what she did. That's all the stealing that she did. She brought a war. This woman been on protest since Thought Day. She left from there. They came, though administration keys, she was on protest again, standing on top of cars. It came with the interim government. She did the same thing, Charles Taylor. She make sure she and Charles Taylor, they all went to Burkina Faso, all around the world, went to Libya, collect ammunition to come fight Liberians like she was fighting another country. It came and killed innocent people that had nothing to do with door or government or none of that. And finally she came, all the things that she was preaching against, she came and did exactly what she was preaching against. And this person, to question on her integrity, somebody that worked with you for 12 years, even if it's something that you want to do to him, that's not how you bring into public embarrassment. She was able to, she can set that woman down and tell him behind closed door, you know what, I'm not doing it. But before the election was coming, she was digging hole with how they call him, with President Weah. They were digging holes or saying doing road construction. The road up to this day, that road haven't gone nowhere. And this type of person, I don't want to see her be in any party, because what you're going to do, Ellen is not stupid either, because you know you want to use her. Ellen, you start making Ellen like she's a god. Without her, nothing can happen in our country. We don't need Ellen. Even Weah himself never knew, he never needed Ellen. Weah could have gone right in the middle of Monrovia and tell all Liberia, hey, I have nothing to do with war. I'm here to vote, and he will have won. He don't need Ellen. But Ellen is a manipulated old witch. And this is the person y'all want to bring by again. And that's why your downfall coming. And we will be on her. We'll be on your take on white on rice.
Mommy, please refrain from calling people names on this platform. I beg you. Okay.
Thank you.
I know
if
you,
I
and I don't want to. Yeah, please don't do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. We're gonna go back to Mr. Lobbo, but just before we go there, I want to address this lady, Cecilia Hippie. You are friend and big sister. Please respect my platform. If I come on here to ask for Cash App, you're not forced to do that. Okay. We are giving services out here, and the people that appreciate it. Okay, we have $1,000 equipment here. You know what it takes to sit here for 3 hours. I am not part of Unity Party. The man came to speak on behalf of the party. Is it a big deal if I ask them to support the platform? Cecile Hippie, please behave. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Lobbo.
All right. Let me first and foremost thank those who call, Mr. Garley, those who make comments. I want to say thanks to them. All right. But let me begin from the bottom up. The most recent caller was just making her case with regards to her own perception and her concern about Madam Salif. I think let me remind a lot of Liberians today about one thing.
I beg to interrupt you for a minute, but your friend and big brother is saying he has to say something. Mr. Sam.
Who?
Mr. Sam.
Ashford and George Lobbo, how you guys doing tonight? Okay.
Sam Jackson. Sam.
Yeah.
We're doing good, Mr. Jackson. Now the people
Okay.
are
Thank you guys very much. Look, here is my thing. Okay.
Go ahead, Bob.
Ellen is an octogenarian. Okay. And even when Ellen was president, she had very little energy, right? She's just like us, we trying to live our last days and to leave a legacy. I don't have any issue with trying to reconcile, and I don't know what the confusion was, if there was any. I heard the rumors, but it does appear to me, just using common sense, that she did not support Omen Borka during the election. Now, what I'm concerned about is that you have a lot of young, highly educated young men, who can build a party, mobilize resources, and they can have a philosophy and move their own lives. I'm not sure they have anything to gain by bringing Ellen and giving her any degree of prominence within a unity party. But again, I understand the situation, especially for those who live in Liberia, who may not want to work as hard, may not want to exert a lot of energy, and just like the sedition, they use the popularity of Mr. Weah to ascend to power. A lot of them were very highly educated. They also had leadership skills, but they wanted to use the path of least resistance to come to power, and that's the Liberian way. I don't understand why Liberian young men and women cannot develop their own foundation and apply in their own resources and build their own party and ascend to power. Coming to power is not an easy task. You need to do a lot of work, a lot of heavy lifting. Now, if you don't want to do the heavy lifting and you just want to ascend to power, it tells me that your objective of coming to power is not philosophically based. You don't have an agenda. I still yet to see these young men articulate a real agenda beyond what I've been hearing for the last 173 years, what they intend to do when they get to power. So those are some of the things that I have an issue with. So I think Ellen, from one point of view, I have a lot of issues with her, but I'm going to let bygones be bygones. I think it's very toxic for any organization that wants to move forward. But if Mr. Lobbo and other members of the Unity Party believe that this is how they're going to ascend to power, I don't see how that's going to happen. And I'm just going to see more and more upheaval in the body politic, which is going to have a negative effect upon improving the livelihoods of Liberians. And that's where I stand.
Thank you. The voice of Mr. Sam Jackson out of Atlanta, Georgia. Go ahead, Mr. Lobbo.
So let me respond real quick to Sam. Sam is one of those pals that I have great deal of respect for and I admire a lot. We have disagreement on a lot of issues, but let me get to the real point. Sam has his reasons to have skepticism about Ellen, given the fact that they all been around. As for the Madam Salif scenario, here's what I would say to you. Madam Salif can be used in so many different ways. And Liberians need to understand that. Like her or not, Madam Ellen Johnson Salif remain an asset to Liberia. That's one thing we have to acknowledge. I get many of the people's argument. The issue of Madam Salif's involvement in the war, that is a fair argument to be made. Madam Salif herself admitted that she contributed initial amount of $10,000. That is a fair argument to make. But let me tell you where we come from as Unity Party partisan. We are not defending Ellen as a result of our involvement in the war. That's not our position. Everybody who have been accused of any crimes, we've been very, very clear. You must be able to answer your question. You must be able to answer for what you've done. Our position have always been on the issue of governance and the party as a ruling party. That is where we come to talk about Ellen. We don't come here to discuss Ellen as a result of a war. Someone said she went to Burkina Faso. She was in, I have no argument on that. I know nothing about that because I listened to that of Prince Johnson's testimony. I listened to that of Charles Taylor's own testimony in The Hague as a result of Ellen's involvement. But I guess here's what I've said, Ashford. One of the reasons why I support the War and Economic Crimes Court, I think this is an opportunity for people to go and exonerate themselves. So let's do that. I think it's a fair thing. Let everybody who's accused go there and exonerate themselves. That's my position. So that's nothing different. So on the issue of why is it the party is bringing Ellen back? Mr. Garley, we must not forget, Liberia is a country of law and not men. Ambassador Boyka, if he's going to be president of the Republic of Liberia, he must abide by the rulings of the court. He must abide by the Constitution. And if the court rules that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf expulsion from the party was unconstitutional, then it's incumbent upon the party to reinstate her. I don't see how is that a problem. Or are you telling Ambassador Boyka to disrespect the court's order, to not follow the court's ruling, and then tomorrow the same people will come and say, oh, Ambassador Boyka don't respect the court. Ambassador Boyka is a man who does not respect the court. Ambassador Boyka is a man who does not respect the court, and he's going to be one of those presidents who, when the court rules, he does not abide by the court ruling. Mr. Garley, we can't have it two ways. The court ruled that Ellen must be reinstated, and in the interest of our party, you begin the segment, Mr. Garley. You talk about how can the Unity Party be able to guarantee Liberians that they can unite the country if the Unity Party cannot unite her own self. So I think Liberians still need to understand. We have to be able to unite. Here's the most important question. Many of you people today, many Liberians, I get your concerns, but Ambassador Boyka was the man who lost the election. We must not forget that. He was the man who wanted to be president and is not president. So I think he should not be reminded. He knows exactly what happened. I think that's something he's aware of. And what I want you to understand is this. If you trust Ambassador Boyka's judgment, if you believe in his leadership, I don't think you will question Ellen's involvement. We in the Unity Party, we have respect for our Senator Barra Maritus. How she's being utilized in the party will be something on to the party. And Mr. Johnson talked about young people in the party, which is true. We have a lot of vibrant young men who are contesting for key positions. You had the other day, Mr. Garley, Amin Muda on your platform. Bright young man. You had George Wisner, another bright guy. You had the other day, right now, I think if everything goes well, you should be able to bring Amos Tuaye, who's vying for this SG position. How many young people back in the days vie for major positions? Like today, you have a man like George Lobbo, another young man who holds, in as much as I try not to talk about my position, but I hold a major position in the Unity Party, USA, Canada. So by virtue of my status today, if I went to Liberia, I'm an executive member of the party. And I'm a young man. So one thing we need to understand is with regards to how we bring young people into power. Many people need to listen to, there was an interview done by the late, by Siri Allen, the former chairman of the NPP. And Siri Allen said one thing. Siri Allen said, and I quote, he said, listen, young people must not make the mistakes we made. He said, when we came from abroad, we were young. We didn't have the experience. We didn't know what it meant to be in government. We just wanted to be in government. He said, and we began to divide ourselves. He said, and that is how we failed the country. He said, because we started this protesting, we started the issue of rioting in this country, and that is how we got the country to where it is. So our generation failed. And my position as a young man is, we cannot repeat the mistake. We need to bring young people into power who have the experience, who have the judgment, who have the temperament, who have served. Not young people because they say you're 20 years old. If that is the argument, we have a government that is predominant filled with young people. If the argument is about age, then let's look at the government we have, Mr. Garley. What don't we have? A young city mayor. We have a lot of young assistant ministers. the Assistant Minister for Research and Development at the Ministry of Agriculture. It's a young man, Avi, we said. Mabasi Kaba, a lot of them I can name. So we must not, what type of young people we need in government? That is the most important thing. Now let me go to Kesali's question. He says, sit on the old mat to apply the new. That was not a question. It was just a statement he was making. So I'm not going to respond to that. James Momo said, what is the Unity Party doing to reconcile with that of our Chairman Pay? Mr. Garley, I think that's a question you asked all the aspirants for the chairmanship position. But here's my position. As far as I'm concerned, I will not mislead the public. There have been no formal position on where the party is going. As we all are aware, our former Chairman Pay have been in the courts. So we will allow that process to play itself out. As an executive member of the party, I don't think it would be professional to speak to ongoing matters that I held up in the courts. I will let the court to play itself out once that is done and concluded with. But I know a lot of party chairman aspirants have offered the position that they would love to reconcile with Chairman Pay. I strongly believe that Chairman Pay can be an intricacy part of the Unity Party moving forward. He has a lot to contribute. And overall, to me, all Liberians have something to give. And I think whatever our differences are, we will be able to reconcile it, given the fact that our Senate Bureau Ambassador Boyka is a very humble person. I think he will be able to use it, exercise his judgment. And we'll see where we go from there. But we'll let it go to play itself out. Let me go to Nathan's question. Nathan said, should Liberians, should the Unity Party forgive Ellen given what happened? Nathan, you have right to be skeptical. You have right to be concerned, given the fact that we expected Ambassador Boyka to have been president. Many of you who know I was the social media campaign coordinator for the Unity Party USA Canada. I can't count the number of hours that I put into the campaign. We can talk about all the different support we had to give. We fought a hard fight. We know what happened. But what I can say to all of you at this particular point in time, we must not forget, if we cannot unite our own party, the Liberians won't trust us to be able to unite the country. So no matter what we do, we have to be able to demonstrate that in our own party. We must be able to show that we can unite our party. And that is the basis upon which Liberians will trust us. So I think the Bible says many of us, especially Liberians, we are Christians, right? The Bible that says we must forgive 77 times 7. It says 77 times 7, right? So I think we all need to just forgive. Or we forgiving people who came to our houses and looted our chickens, who ate our goats, who killed people. I think we can forgive Ellen in our party in the interest of unity to move forward. Mr. Garley, let's go to this area of real quick. I want to go to Alice Jones. No, Alana King. Alana King said I should join the party of Octavius Gilman. Alana King, let me be very clear with you. I want to say first and foremost, I'm humble by your confidence in me and by your trust in my judgment. But let me say this. Moving from one party to another party does not solve the problem in Liberia. Liberia's problems is fundamental, is a base of lack of institutions. So running from one institution to another does not mean you're strengthening the institutions. And what we need to do is when there are problems in the institutions is to make it work. It's to fix the problem. Because a man who runs from his house ever when there's a problem, the next house you go into, there will be a problem. So what you're going to be doing? You'll be living in the street running around. We can always keep running. For me, I don't believe in that running ideology. I believe in staying and solving the problem. And that is why I'm in the Unity Party, to make sure that we can make it work. Let me go to Alex Jones. Alex Jones said when a president gets elected, it is up to him or he or her to be able to either dismiss or reappoint somebody. One thing he did not disprove is that Charles Sirleaf was at the central bank. And that was my statement, that Charles Sirleaf was working at the central bank. Whether he got promoted or not, he was at the central bank. Mr. Jones talked about, in as much as I support the war crime code, why is it that we have Ure and Ellen herself who took the TRC recommendation and threw in the trash? Mr. Jones, that statement is not true. It's not factual. If any Liberian is factual, Mr. Garley, as a journalist, I would like for you to do that for the public. in 2011, Madam Salif, if my memory can set me right, submitted the recommendation to the legislature. They were waiting on the legislature approval for the TRC recommendation for its full implementation, and that didn't happen. And on the basis of that, that's where it got held up. It was not because of Ellen refusal. That was not what happened. He asked me about Amara Kone, how much Amara Kone was making, and that how much Charles Salif was making. Mr. Jones, again, I've been very, very clear. If you have the ability to look at the budget, then you go and read through the budget. You have the Freedom Information Act. You can ask for it. That's what the Freedom Information Act said. So what I think you should do is to request those documents. They should be available for public perusal. It is your right to demand it and get it. On the issue of Ure with the War Crimes Court, I think Benedict Ure have been very clear that he would like to go to the War Crimes Court to exonerate himself. So I have no problem with it. And here's my point. Until we prosecute somebody, I'm not going to prosecute them in a court of public opinion. I'm not going to be doing that. Because as far as I'm concerned, every single person who took an arm in Liberia, one way or the other, was involved in the war. So we must prosecute everybody. If Ellen Johnson said, and here's one thing, Mr. Garley, I want to be very clear on today before I leave this conversation. Ellen Johnson Salif cannot be called a rebel, but President Samuel Kanyado, who went to church, who murdered people, is a saint. Yeke Koluba was a general, but he's a saint. You know, you can't do it like that. Prince Johnson was a savior. People were dying, and Prince Johnson rescued them. Our people were dying according to George Bush, so I had to rescue them. If all of them were rescuing their people, so what about the woman who gave 10,000 to a man downfall who raped her? I'm not in the business of that. This is why, for me, I'm being very, very clear. If my father committed something, you'll come to me. I will bring him and turn him over to y'all. Until then, everybody should go face a war crime. That's my position.
And we have a lot to talk about it tonight. And thanks for letting.
Yeah, Mr. Garley, I think we can go from our.
I still have some people who want to get a piece of you. Don't worry, we got a lot to talk about tonight because I mean, thanks for letting the program is sponsored, so I ain't worried about this. You're not gonna stay for the next couple of hours. I think, yeah. We have Mr. Emmanuel Tour on the line from Detroit. Mr. Tour, welcome to the show.
Yes.
Welcome, Brother Garley. How are you?
Good. Too blessed to be stressed.
And I also want to say welcome to my main man, Lobbo. Lobbo's a good salesman for his case. And I want to applaud him for making the case for the Unity Party. Considering the choices we had in 1985, truly Ellen was a better choice than we are. But when you consider a mediocre field, and she was just a little bit better than her. But let me tell Lobbo something. I've always said to him, when we are given a chance in life, we must serve with distinction. In my viewpoint, I've never supported the CPP arrangements because I've always said that it was an unholy alliance of people whose interest was just to take power. That's all.
The CPP.
What you realize.
Can you tell him to be audible enough at this? Tell him to be audible.
Mr. Toll, will you please speak a little bit louder? Mr. Toll.
Concocted on Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. The rampant bribery. Ellen did something that no other president in the history of Liberia has done. She institutionalized corruption and bribery in the legislature. And today, our people cannot serve, our representatives cannot serve the people very well. Do you know of the 60s or more, 68 or so concessions of past? Do you know how much money that Ellen gave people just to vote her way? What do you think George Weah, who took that money on Ellen, would do when he took over? I'm saying to you, I wish UP very well. The only arbiter of who's best is the Liberian people. I'm saying any progressive Liberian who in the right mind votes for UP is telling me one thing. They don't want any progress. It's not the issue. The issue is the CPP arrangement as it is today will not stand. And I know in my heart of hearts, but next year you will see a better arrangement that will present a better case for Liberia. But I wish George Lobbo and UP well. We have a choice, and it's not a matter of George. It's not a matter of UP being better. Ambassador, we have sat next to Ellen for 12 years. What does Ellen bring to the table besides money? Nothing else. Ellen could not have her own son elected. I mean, she's the only president in all of Africa that couldn't even elect her own son. This gone election, 2014, George, only 4 UP candidates won the elections, over 15 seats. Ellen brings absolutely nothing but money. And if UP, only Joseph Boyka was there for 12 years and couldn't raise a dime to win that election, do you think that I believe that Joseph Boyka would be able to raise $1 billion to solve our problem in 5 years? Absolutely no. So, George, I wish you very well. And we look forward to at least put up our choice. I know we have a choice. You'll be surprised. Come next year, you will see somebody will come forth that, oh, for peace sake. What my peace sake? Somebody burned your house down, George, and because of peace sake, you can bring it back because you want peace. Ellen has absolutely, Ellen has no more rights to have any say in Liberia. We'll leave her alone for peace sake. All of those who governed before should be left alone. But you know what I mean? They're forfeited their rights in Arizona or in Detroit. If you perform like UP did, you will never see the daylight. So I wish you very well, and you know, I love you. You make a better case for UP, but we will see this coming election. Whether UP candidates will even win this election. So thank you, George, and I wish you well.
Okay, the voice of Mr. Toll from Detroit. Again, when you call and you don't meet the phone, I'll just, you know, I'll block you. Let's say turn your phone off. You know, when you call, at least meet the phone because people are speaking when you call. All right, 4023. The last 4 digits of your number. 4023. Tell us your name.
That's my name is Cyrus from Minneapolis. Thanks, Ashford Garley.
Okay, welcome to the show. Go ahead, make your
Is
point.
this Cyrus?
So, Judge Lobbo, I'm gonna ask you, Lobbo. Make a brilliant case. Lobbo, I just want to ask you a question. Do you fundamentally believe in a CPP moving forward?
Cyrus, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm asking Judge Lobbo.
Okay, he's taking a question down. Is that a question? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got a question, a comment. I just want to wrap it up. I just want to ask Lobbo like a yes or no question. If he believes in the CPP
he told me
moving
the
forward.
question. He answering the question. We're taking the question in segments or sequence. Okay. All right. Thank you. Keep calling. We have 7084. Tell us your name.
Hello, Mr. Garley. Ashford Garley. This is Mr. Joseph T. Jackson. The T is for Tama. I'm calling from Houston, Texas. Let me, first of all, extend to you for the brilliant show that you run. I have been following you for so many times, but this is the very, very first time for me to call on your show to make a comment. So I want to say thank you for the platform.
You're welcome.
And thank you for giving me the opportunity to come on tonight. Look, my good friend and brother, Emmanuel, told just all right. I just want to add a little bit and get off the line. We have a serious problem in our country. Like, we are not for complaining or any action. That's all we're good at. Seeing people coming on social media, because it's not only this platform, but all the other platforms, since Heron Costa came on and blasted at Unity Party for welcoming Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. You know, I'm downhearted with us Liberians. We go to criticize, but we do not take action. And that's the reason why our country, Liberia, is not going to go anywhere until we Liberians stop this complaining and begin to take some action. Charles Taylor is in jail today for 50 years because the people of Sierra Leone stood up against Charles Taylor. Liberians. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf has nothing, absolutely nothing, zero to offer to that country, Liberia. She killed over 250,000 people, and today she's walking around. Look, Mr. Garley, Mr. Lobbo knows me very well, and I'm introducing myself to you. So because next time I will come on the show, I serve as the CDC USA chairman. I resigned about a month ago, exactly a month ago now. He knows about it. Lobbo knows me very well. He's my brother. And I decided to go as an independent thinker now, because the party politics in Liberia has damaged the country. We will see the wrong when I'm talking. Today, the very CDC that I supported, we were going against Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. That when we take power, we were going to prosecute this woman. And we refused to do it. The opposition today are complaining about President Weah and his government officials building homes. But I will tell you this, Mr. Garley. President Weah, whether he's going to serve in 6 years or in 12 years, when he leaves power, trust me, no one single Liberian will be able to go after President Weah. Zero. Because we just put our talking. And that's why I said to myself, since I declared my independence, no more party politics, I received dozens of calls, including from the parent Lobbo, for me to work along with him. But this is what I'm going to say at the end of the call.
Thank you, Mr. T.
I, Joseph Samuel Jackson, will not support any group that will not stand up and demonstrate to the American embassy, the international community in Liberia, that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf be brought to justice. That will be the only group that will stand up for Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to be prosecuted. So let's say it. We can do it too.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Thank you so much. We have the retired Conan, Raymond Gray, on the line from Minnesota. Hello, Raymond.
My friend and brother.
Welcome to the show.
Lobbo should be a diplomat. In politics, there is no diplomacy. Politics is a game for ruffians. Madam Sirleaf is still a Marshall Tito in the game of politics. She is ruthless. And unless you realize how ruthless this lady is, she will continue to bully you to the extent where you are nobody to her. To her, Joseph Boakai is a nobody. Cummings is a nobody. You understand? Because those people believe that without Madam Sirleaf, they can garner power in the Republic of Liberia. And I tell you what, I hear people saying that Ellen is an asset. Ellen is no asset to the Republic. The Republic of Liberia is an asset to Ellen. That's why she keeps coming back. 12 years was not enough. Matter of fact, go back as far as to the 70s when she served under President Tubman. Come up to Tubman. She was finance minister. She knew Tubman was going to prosecute her for corruption because of the 1979 OAU summit. The way she handled it. The lady is a criminal de terror. A first-class criminal. Unless you stand to Ellen, I barely watched Henry Costa, but I enjoyed the way how he was brutalizing her. And then I tell you what, Madam Sirleaf understands only those kinds of languages. She's cringing right now. And I'm writing a book on Ellen's entire life about her roguishness, her way through the CIA and all of that. You guys must continue to verify her, thinking that she's a good woman. Ellen is back in Liberia not because she wants the Unity Party or any CPP to win. She wants to put a sand in a particular quandary, so that I believe she still believes in the presidency of George Weah for her own protection. All she needs to do is to promise George Weah a second term, and all George Weah needs to do is to accept somebody to go to subordinate Joel Howard as vice president, and the deal is sealed. Ellen not coming back because she loved Joseph Boakai, she want anybody else. And I heard a guy talking about, oh, Ellen is coming to rig the election on my behalf. That was the same promise they made in 2017. Few days for the election, Ellen shut her phone up. That individual called until he was actually going crazy. And they've gone back and reinvested that same confidence in her. Madam Salif understands one game in politics: brutality. That's why she jailed Taylor, because she knew Taylor is a man. You understand? And I don't like when people sounding this diplomatic about Madam Salif. If I were in power today, I would have nabbed Madam Salif and dragged her to the courts and go after her children, her generation, and anybody that is attached to her. The Clavender Parker, anybody. That is the only politics Ellen understands. And our generation, people were talking about people left for here.
Thank you.
People left for here. They subordinated their character to so-called warlords, big people.
Thank you, Mr. Gray.
When you touch, my brother, let me let you go because we'll find a way to come back on the show. But I don't like to hear about people praising Ellen. Ellen is a demagogue for that.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. The voice of Remy Gray. Want to go to California now. Hello. Lord bless. Hello. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Ashford. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good evening. And I want to say good evening to my brother there from Arizona, Mr. Lobbo.
How you doing, my dear brother?
I have a few questions, but let me just say a question and probably a few comments.
No, Mr. Loveless, please, just one question. We've got a lot of folks in line, and we have to go back to the man. Please, we're already running over time. Please, just one question.
Okay. Okay. Let me just ask two questions then.
No, one question, please. I got a lot of folks in queue already, bro.
Okay, Jay, you take all my time. Okay. Well, so Mr. Lobbo, let me ask you this question. Do you believe in the ideology of the CPP?
What's his name?
Why?
Lord bless.
Why is it that you guys bringing the ex-president back in the party?
Thank you.
That's my question. Because
that Mr. Lord bless from California. We have a caller from Canada, 8851. Tell us your name.
It's SB Wallace, Toronto.
Okay, SB, one question, please. Go ahead.
I don't have a question, Ashford. I just want to make a few comments to Mr. Lobbo.
1 minute, please.
Okay. So, Mr. Lobbo, I follow you a lot of times on your platform, and I'm glad to see you on the Ashford show tonight. As a young man, I was 8 years, turning 9 when the war started in Liberia. And like many young Liberians, our childhood was decimated and destroyed by the Civil War. And yet and still, someone like yourself and many others out there are promoting these so-called political parties like the CPP, the UP, the CDC, and so forth. What have these people done for the young men and women in Liberia, right? As far as education, as far as health, agriculture, technology, and all of these things that are so integral in today's life. What have these people done that today you guys are still promoting these so-called parties for young men and women in Liberia to continue to support these people? They have done nothing. My expectation of someone like you, Mr. Lobbo, with your platform is to continue to expose these people and how the detriments that they are to Liberia as a society. We shouldn't be promoting Bokar, Ellen, or anybody. We should be educating our young people, giving them the ideas and knowledge to see who these people, to see who they are. Because
Thank you.
Liberia is where it is today.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace.
For the lack of honesty and effort that should have been put in place for our country to be.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wallace. Thank you.
We should stop being hypocritical to our society.
Thank you.
So can I answer this question now, Mr. Garley?
No, just one more. We have the God-fearing professional colleague, Mr. Gerald Cummings, on the line.
Okay, go for it.
Mr. Garley, how are you?
What's up, my brother? Welcome to the show. You're live on the radio.
Thank you. Josh, good evening to you.
Good evening, Mr. Cummings.
I'm going to do you a nice piece of favor. You know, I like your expose. I love your presentation almost every day. I listen to you. And I will say this to you, Mr. Lobbo. I'm going to help you. I'm going to find a way, if you can read a book called The Face of Machiavelli, written by Greece. If you read that book, the next thing I'm going to do for you personally, I will give you Tom Wowoyu's testimony that never made it made its way to the TRC. Because there was something you said concerning prosecution of warlords in our country. I was the victim. My father was in jail by Dole from 1983 to 1991. 1993, Alhaji Kumar ordered his arrest for lie that he kept rebels in his swimming pool and kept arms and ammunition. 4 years ago, I lost my father. But I will say this, Mr. Lobbo. You see, I want to ask you just one question, just one out of here. Do you actually believe that Madam Salif is in the interest of development in our country?
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll go back to Mr. Lobbo.
Okay. All right. Let me begin with Mr. Cummings saying he was the most recent caller. He made his statement, and Mr. Cummings, let me say sorry for the loss of your father. Is this happening? My condolences. It's a sad story. But let me get something up real quick. He asked me about if I do believe that Madam Salif is in the interest of development of our country. My answer to that is yes. For the 12 years, Ashford Garley, let us not forget the government that paved 700 kilometers of road, the government that reconstructed the hydro that for over 30 years did not turn on, the government that reconstructed the airport new terminal and paved the runway there, the government that builds a ministerial complex at the cost of over $60 million. You can't tell me the government was not in the interest of development. The government that took the university budget from whatever it was when people were graduating. I was in Liberia during chancellor time, where the university will open once every 2 years. We'll put a graduate once after every year, and they will take the UL to a $12 to $16 million budget. The government that will make investment in the healthcare sector. So I can't question that. And I want us to be very, very frank here. I understand that many people, the reason why most of the time the conversation get tied up with all of Ellen's, I think I've been very, very clear with my position with Ellen. You can deal with Ellen on two different fronts, how you want to address Ellen. With regards to Ellen and her involvement in the war, I've been very, very clear because I've stated categorically clear that I support the War Crimes Court, that any Liberian who was involved in it must go there. So the issue of Ellen and the war, when you ask me those questions, it's like I have to say I'm supporting Ellen, that she's a sin. I didn't say that. I have made that very, very clear. But on the issue of the Unity Party as a ruling party, that is the conversation that I'm having. And that is the discussion that I want. So people turn Ellen involvement with the war to that of the Unity Party. Before Ellen joined the Unity Party, Ellen had given her $10,000 to the war. So the Unity Party didn't give $10,000 to no revolution. On the issue of the question you asked, I would say yes, because if we look at development in Liberia, Mr. Cummings, given what you said, yes, I would say yes, she was in the interest of development. Yes, that's my answer to that. I listened to A.B. Wallace from Canada who said our youthful age were taken away and I should not be defending the party and this and that. It's unfortunate, except where we change the system of government. If we want to go to a monarchy form of government, then that's fine, where we can get kings and they will get elected for life and they can serve. We don't have to be talking about this. But until we change that, then we have to deal with what we have. We have a democratic system of government where the Constitution requires us to elect our people. And we elect our people, you can be independent or go to a political party. So as far as I'm concerned, my job is not to transform the Constitution overnight. We must not forget about it. We have to discuss issues from a legal perspective as well. Liberia has a democratic system of government, and we will abide by it. Until we change it and go to a monarchy form of government, then people will get elected. So the issue of political party will remain around until we change the system of government or the form of government we are. And that is my response to that. But on the issue of our youthful age, myself, I went to 3 different countries as a refugee. Every one of us, one way or the other, have stories to tell. Mr. Garley, the other day, I told my stories. Like I said, I don't like to talk about the war. We all were affected. I'm not sitting here to make the case that no, the war was justifiable. No. Those who brought the war, then let us prosecute them. I've made that very, very clear. I don't know how much more can I state that. I said if my dad was involved in the war, come to me and I'll bring him for you people. So I'm in support of it. So we can discuss the issue of persecution. That's fine. But we cannot be handpicking issues that we want to talk about. I talk about the Nimba raid, the Lutrin massacre, the Tuporo massacre, the Sinje massacre. There's so many other massacres that we can talk about. Those people must be brought to book. Now, but the problem we have, Mr. Garley, people will come here and call Ellen a killer, a criminal. What will you refer to President Doe as? Was Doe a sin? What that can be mentioned. Some people come here today, they will even bring the Unity Party in Ellen. I have to say the Unity Party launched a revolution. We didn't launch no war. So you say Ellen is a killer, but Yeke is in your party, he's a girl? Who is Yeke? Alhaji Kroma is in your party, he's what? George Bole was elected in your county, who is he? Prince Johnson was elected in your county, you call him hero, who is he? Did Ellen cross into Lograto, into Butuo? My argument here is not on the war. I keep making this clear. But Liberians take Ellen involvement with the war to that of the government. No, we need to separate this conversation. The Unity Party is an institution. The Unity Party did not launch a revolution on Liberia. The Unity Party took over a country that was decimated, a failed state, and transformed into a functioning democratic society. And that is why we speak to. So prosecute Ellen for the war, which is fine. And I agree. If it's left with me, Mr. Garley, I've been very clear. I want us to go back to 1979. I can't restate this over and over. I've made it very clear. All right. My position is clear on this now. I've answered this question again. Everyone who had any hand from 1979 that introduced violence, where people lost relatives, where people's property were looted, we need to question everybody. That's my position. Now, let's fast forward. Now, let me come to Senior Brother Remy Gray. Remy, I want to say thank you very much. He said I should be a diplomat. I'm not just, I can't be a diplomat. I just have to be responsible and also understand that regardless of how many things has been said, that is what leaders must do. You must be able to address issues. People will always come with emotions, with sentiments, because of given the nature of the conversation. And it is my job to be able to deal with the situation and respond to the questions as a professional, which I've done consistently, given my experience with regards to leadership. He talked about Madam Saliv is not Madam Saliv has her own motive. Let me say this to you. I am trusting the leadership and the judgment of Ambassador Boyka. And let me be very clear. Ambassador Boyka was the man who should have been president. He is not the president today. He is the man who traveled throughout the country and still he didn't win the election. If he believes that he's bringing Ellen to put him in another dish, then that's his judgment call. But I will remain supportive of him and in the interest of our party. And let us be very clear now. In the interest of our party, given the court's ruling, we must abide by the court's ruling, and the Unity Party is no exception. We respect the rule of law, and we are obedient to the rule of law, and that is what we must demonstrate like we've done in the past. Now, let me get to my good friend and brother, Mr. Jackson. He said, Ellie must be prosecuted. Mr. Jackson, I've been very, very clear. I don't think I need to restate this position about who should be prosecuted. I've made it very clear. Any single person who was accused must be prosecuted. There's no exception to that. And I've also said, if I'm using my father, then what is it now that excuse Ellen? So that's very clear. Let me go to my good friend and brother, the man Cyrus. He asked me if I do believe in the fund. If I do fundamentally believe that the CPP ideology. Cyrus, yes, I do believe in the CPP. And as far as I'm concerned, I have not had reason to speculate. I have not been given reason to question anything in the CPP. We'll let the CPP play out. In Liberia, formation, alliances, or collaborations, given the history, they tend not to hold. But again, the reason why they have not held up in the past is because we Liberians, that's what we support. We all have to be supportive of this process. We all have to make sure that these leaders, whatever commitment they made, that they come true with this commitment. So for right now, my good friend and brother Cyrus, that is our wish and that is our hope. My party is committed to the CPP. And I think at this point, you can't question the fact that Unity Party will agree that even if we're not few candidates in certain counties, in certain areas, in the interest of the CPP, that we have demonstrated our willingness to support in the CPP. And that is clear. Let me go to Emmanuel Toh, who went on the rant with his statements. You know, Emmanuel Toh is one very interesting person. He made his argument and talk about their party will be formed. I think what you should do, Mr. Toh, is that I appreciate your observations, but here's what I would say to you. The Unity Party does not belong to one person. If you truly believe in what you said, that the Unity Party was a bad party, was wrong, the Liberian people hated the Unity Party. Given your expertise, Mr. Toh, there were over 20 different political parties that contested the 2017 elections. So if you really believe that the Liberian people hated the Unity Party that much, how is it that Joseph Nyuma Boaka, who happens to be the standard bearer of the Unity Party, was the one who went to the runoff against a coalition? I mean, the statements sometimes, they don't match up the results. They don't support the data. So I don't know which perspective you argue from. If the Liberian people hated the Unity Party, there's in no way Ambassador Boaka would have been the one in the runoff. It just don't make sense. The argument don't hold. If the Liberian people hated the Unity Party that much and believed that the Unity Party was a failure, then the CDC should not have gone to a coalition to defeat the UP. The Unity Party contested against a coalition, folks. So sometimes some of the arguments you people make, especially logical, reasonable people, I just want to say to you, let the data support your argument. And as far as I'm concerned, Ambassador Boaka went to the runoff where 1.2 million Liberians did not participate in the runoff. He accumulated over 400,000 votes. The last time I checked, other parties who came from Mars, who their leaders were from, Jupiter or Pluto, where were they? It was Ambassador Joseph Boaka, as old as you say he is, as corrupt as you claim to be, that you say he is, as terrible as he was the one in the runoff. So the next time, here's what you do for me. When your standard bearer makes it to the runoff, then have the guts to make that argument. Until then, your argument, there's no facts, there's no basis to support that position. The Unity Party remain firm and will continue to stand where we are. Organize the party and engage us. I'll tell you one thing. We'll be ready for you guys.
The voice of George Lobbo, Ashford Garley Live this beautiful Monday night. Tomorrow we're going to play host to Dr. Jeremiah Wapo, former presidential aspiring in the 2017 election. And he's a member of the Rainbow Alliance. He will be our special guest tomorrow night. Mr. Lobbo, what can be done by this government to improve private sector and create jobs?
Brilliant question, Mr. Garley. From the initial stage, I spoke about the diversification of the Liberian economy. One thing many people didn't understand with the previous government, right? Many people made the argument that why is it the Unity Party government did not invest heavily in the productive sector of the economy? You have to also understand, given what we inherited Ashford, and I want Liberians to understand when you're going to make the argument against it, the reason why many Liberians don't do it is because they can't make the argument on the substance and on the facts. Let us look at something here, Ashford. When President Samuel Kanyando came over, when he took over Liberia, Liberia had a functioning, stable, vibrant economy. So Samuel Kanyando inherited Liberia at its peak of economic prosperity. There were companies in Liberia. Turbo had embarked on massive decentralization of basic services across the country. Turbo was building low-income housing. Turbo decided to build a sport complex. Turbo decided to decentralize educational facilities, which George Bullitt was serving at the Ministry of Education. He admitted to. So when Doe came to power, it was easier for people to have seen public schools being built by Samuel Kyan Doe's government because he made the blueprint. Now, let's look at what the Unity Party government inherited when we came to power. We took over a country that was in total darkness over 20 years. The hydro had never even put a light on to charge a phone. We took over a country where everywhere was so complete potholes. From Monrovia to Buchanan was 5 hours. From Kakata to Bon Mars was 2.5 hours. From Monrovia to Ganta, 4 hours plus. Healthcare sector, 40% of Liberians had access to healthcare. The educational system was crumbling. So the institutions were dead, Mr. Garley. So the Unity Party government had to start from scratch. We took over an army that needed to be completely. We had to restructure the AFL, a police force that had to be restructured. We made a disarmament process that had not been completed. Rehabilitation of our young brothers, the educational sector, all sectors of government. Now, what did we leave, Mr. Garley? It is true. We understand today that the way forward for every economy, now the extractive sector do not create jobs. So because the productive sector of the economy is what will create jobs. What do we mean by the productive sector? It is the sector that looks at value added. Now, again, one of the reasons why when you look at the UP government, Mr. Garley, if you look at the productive sector of the economy, right, you need to build factories. How can you build factories? You don't have stable electricity. Your hydro was under construction. How can people move goods around? When we didn't have the roads, the Unity Party had to invest in paving roads, 700 kilometers of road. We spent over $300 million to reconstruct the hydro. So what we did was, Mr. Garley, was to sign the concession agreements with the expectation and left the room that the next government, one thing about all concession agreements in Liberia, Mr. Garley, it is clear in the law that they can always be renegotiated. They can always be visited. So we felt that if we make the initial investment, now the next government that comes in will begin to look at the productive sector. Why? Because the hydro will already be sending electricity. The roads will already be paved. This is why we left the Somalia Drive for you. We also made sure that we paved the runway. We opened up the airport so investors can come. So, Mr. Garley, we lay out the path. Now, what this government should have done now is to look at the productive sector of the economy. What do I mean by that? Go to a place like Firestone. Okay, we want to look at this concession Firestone. You are planting new rubber. Or is it possible for us to give you an extended 20 years, but you need to put up a factory? If Firestone make the argument that there's no stable electricity, you can make the argument that the hydro is already working. You see what I'm saying? You could go to Wheeler. You could go to other places. If they say no energy, you say, oh, we have electricity. So this government needs to think about ways in investing in the productive sector of the economy. You know, and unfortunately for them, Mr. Garley, they have not done it. The government not only have not thought about it, the government cannot even maintain the foreign direct investment we attracted. The government have lost some of those investors. Some of those businesses are now leaving. Businesses are struggling. The government could not even keep up some of those policies because, you know, Mr. Garley, in a business setting, they say the government is responsible to create an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. We cannot have a government where banks are being liquidated every 2 months, so people who have their money can get their money on time. The government have not created a condition. The rule of law don't seem to exist. People want to talk about corruption. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest, Mr. Garley. Since the inception of the CDC government, what have we seen, Mr. Garley? If we go to name the cases, we've seen $25 million infusion, unaccounted for. We've seen $16 billion went missing, unaccounted for. Under this government, we've seen cases of $800,000 scandal at the National Housing Authority. We can go on and on. So, Mr. Garley, I begin the conversation with you by saying, Number one, the government needs to be fiscally disciplined. The government needs to cut wasteful spending. If the government does cut wasteful spending and redirect some of that money towards investing in creating the private sector, the government can create jobs in that area. But unfortunately, Mr. Garley, you know, it's mind-blowing that when I see supporters of the government when they come to discuss the issue. Your government told us they were going to leave 1.5 million people out of poverty. The other day, someone made an argument that they were talking about a family size of 7%. Even if we divided 1.5 million by 7%, Mr. Garley, you still need to be able to create at least more than 100,000 jobs if you're going to make the math work. Now, how many jobs have the government created? The government that is initiating austerity measures. Austerities do not grow the economy. Austerity is a form of cutting. And you only cutting because you increase your payroll. You only cutting because you've increased your expenditures. So I think, Mr. Garley, instead of just hoping hopelessly and giving the government ideas, here's what I would say to the government. Let the government first embark on massive wasteful spending cut. Let the government be fiscally disciplined. Let the government hire professional people to advise them. I listen to Samuel Jackson. That's one thing when I go after Semi, I told you, I say, but you were in Liberia. You were advising the government. Why didn't you talk to them about some of these monetary policy, Mr. Jackson? So it's not just us offering ideas. The government have people in those positions. If the government can do it, if the people you are appointing can do it, get the right people to help you. Bring on the right people, Mr. Garley. So the government needs to be able to invest in the private sector. I don't think the government have the capacity. You cannot be giving $4,500 to the tourism sector, Mr. Garley, and you expect that to yield any kind of return. So that's not going to happen.
Now, tell us the status of your political leader, the Honorable Joseph Boycott, as he plans to head the CPP in 2023. Do you still believe, today is July the 13th, do you believe that on January in 2024, we'll see Joseph Boycott go into the executive mansion?
Mr. Garley, come January 2024, I don't apologize about this. I don't hold back on this. I don't feel for people to give them the facts. Come 2024, I was telling about Joseph experienced humble Newman Boycott. We will be Liberia 26th president. And that is something we're not apologizing about. We are prepared. We know that there will be a lot of fighting. When I say fighting, it means we are in the CPP. We have to be able to defeat people in the CPP to win the nomination, and which will go on to the CPP or the CDC to defeat the CDC. I can tell you we are prepared and we are ready for that fight. And as a result of that, I can assure the people that our Senator Joseph Newman Boycott will be elected president.
I'm told you are headed to Liberia for the convention.
Mr. Garley, I should have been in Liberia. As a matter of fact, this morning I spoke to supporters of the draft who are my rock. But you are aware, Mr. Garley, as an opposition and as a critical voice, I was supposed to be in Liberia for 10 days. Think about it. The standard bearer of the ANC, Mr. Alexander B. Cummings, Mr. Garley, was quarantined for 14 days when the cases were less than 20. Now in Liberia, with the current case count above 700 plus people, and opposition, I don't want to go to Liberia and be quarantined for 14 days when I'm supposed to be there for 10 days. And not only that, Mr. Garley, I check on Air Morocco. I have not seen, there's no flight for them. The only flight I saw from my end from Arizona was United Airlines through Brussels. And you are also aware that Americans are not allowed in Europe right now, given our case numbers. So those difficulties, those challenges, I didn't want to put the party through all of that. And I didn't want to put the supporters of the draft through all of that. I've just decided to hold back and I'll prepare. But one thing I can assure all Liberians is that come this year, 2020, George Preston Lobbo Jr. Of the United Party will be in the Republic of Liberia. When? I don't have to say that for security reasons, but I will be in Liberia.
Well, just before we take leave of you, Mr. Lobbo, Atlanta King and others, they have been calling on you to consider running for president of Liberia. What do you make of this?
Mr. Garley, let me first and foremost take this time to say to to Alana King, to the many other Liberians who've expressed their trust and their confidence in me, that I'm very humble. That a young man of my age, to be called into the race, into the ring, with someone who have worked on the international stage, someone who's accomplished, knowing that one of the options the Liberians do have is in Alexander B. Cummings. Another man is Benedict Ure, one of the most successful Liberian, who owns share in Lone Star Cell. Not only that, we have one of Liberia's finest public servant, the man Ambassador Joseph Humble Numa Boaka, who happens to be my standard bearer, the man who addressed the United Nations 2 times representing Liberia, the man who took more than 5 different international state visit trips around the world representing his country. To have a young man of my age, Mr. Garley, for people to think about me in this manner, in this current dispensation, I can only say that I'm humble, and I want to say that I'm grateful for the confidence that you have in me and the faith and the belief you all see in me. In 2004, Liberians met with George Weah in Florida and told him that some Liberians told him that they wanted him to consider running for the presidency. It took George over 12 years to become president. What I do from now moving forward, Mr. Garley, is what will be very important. Knowing very well that who becomes president, there's no school that you go to acquire a degree for the presidency. It is the experience that you acquire. It is the rational judgment. It is your decision-making ability, your will and determination to be able to address the problems that confront the nation. Your love and admiration to making sure that people can be taken out of poverty. Your willingness to doing what is right without fear or favor. Those are the things that people look at. And Mr. Garley, I can say this to you. In as much as I am humble as a young man, not too many young men of my age today can stand where I am and say, to hold some of the positions that I've held in this world, what I've done in my experience. And all I can continue to say is to continue to do what I will do, is to continue to prepare myself that so one day, when that is required of me, when that tax is given to me, that I will be able to deliver 150%. And to many of you Liberians, I understand it. I understand your quest for leadership. I understand that we need good leadership and people who are credible, who are reputable. And let me say this to many other people. There are always people who always have things to say. There will always be people who will hate you for no reason. And to those of you who don't believe when people call my name, knowing that you expect your standard bearer, who you believe is a God, and to have people call my name before your standard bearer, I know how disappointing it gets. I know how frustrating it is. I know how much it hurts your feeling. But at the end of the day, let me say this without fear or favor. Some of you, your goals or your standard bearer, with $2 million today, if I got in 2023 race, your standard bearer won't even accumulate some votes any day. But I'll tell you, I will remain humble. Joseph Numa Boaka is my standard bearer. The Unity Party is the party that I belong to, and I definitely will work on it.
Hold that thought before you give us your closing statement. We'll take a musical break, and this guy is Kofi Olomide. I've been sitting so long, I want to stretch my legs a little bit.
Oh, you want to show your dance move, man? They got it, guys. Mama, how have you didn't give up? Come on, do your dance.
Beau gosse marié. Voici la chanson des mariés par Kofi Olomide. Yote. Tuma. Del Pirlo Mourinho. Tuma. Okimi Bandale.
Mr. Garley. That guy, I swear to God. My man Ashford, so how did my people do from the draft? Because I want to send a message to them.
Well, your folks did extremely well. They contributed immensely. We made about $360.
Thank you very much.
Very, very impressive. The voice of Kofi Olomide avec sa
My party comment before I take leave of you now.
I know. Hold on.
Okay, I'll wait.
Hold on, Josh. Yo. Abidjan 3V, Macurizon 4. Yo Pougon Croix-Rouge. À jamais, à Boboté. Oh man. Folks, tomorrow is Jeremiah Wapo. Dr. Jeremiah Wapo in studio tomorrow. Make no mistake, throw no joke on this one. That now you know, man. Mr. Josh Lobbo, your partner coming.
I want to say thank you very much, Mr. Ashford Garley, for having me. I want to take this time to say thanks to all of our supporters, members of the draft, for being here today, for taking up time from their busy schedule and coming to show support to me. I also want to take this time to thank my fellow Unity Party partisans, supporters of the collaborations that are here to see me through, who came here to support. And let me also extend my thanks to those of you who offer advice to me, whether I was in a comment, those of you who disagree with me. I also want to thank all of you. Those of you who don't believe I can be anything, I want to thank you as well, because what you've done, you've given me reason to continue to prepare and take myself to another level. You might not believe in me now, is because you probably don't feel that I have what it takes to be president or to run for any office anywhere. But I just want to say I'm grateful to know that that you do have that type of thinking about me, and I'm grateful. I would definitely take on the task and move on from there. So my fellow Liberians, I want to conclude on this note. Rape is on the increase in our country. I'm strongly against rape. I want every one of us to condemn rape to the fullest. Those of you heartless, wicked, evil people that are committing those crimes against our young ones, please, you need to stop. Please, this is unacceptable. Please, into the CDC government. I began the show earlier today, and I will close again by saying, for the loss of your two lawmakers, these are difficult times. Politics aside, I want to say from the bottom of my heartfelt condolences to you guys. Have our sympathy to the people of District Number 9 and District Number 2 in Sino County. To my fellow Liberians, as a young man, I want to say thank you very much. For those of you who believe in me and don't believe in me, I'm a humble young man, and I'm grateful for being here. And until then, let us continue to disagree. Let us stick to the issues. Let us be factual about what we say. Let us put our sentiments and emotions aside. Because at the end of the day, what makes you, your integrity, your credibility is based on what you stand for. The principles that guide you must be how people will be able to look at you and say, in this man we believe. Now those who believe that the only way forward is by tearing other people down, is by being critics of other people. We question government's action because government is elected by the people and should be for the people. The government cannot be executing a budget of 500 million, and when we question what the government is doing, then people have problem with it. But at the end of the day, I want to say, Mr. Garley, it has been a pleasure hanging out with you. To all of you Liberians, I want to say thank you very much. God bless you. And on behalf of the draft, thank you. Thank you. I look forward to always being here. My pleasure.
And you just stay put, don't go anywhere.
Like sorry.
Oh, this guy. My man, I need that song. That was the song Chancellor used to play in Banga. When the people finish killing people, cattle, he said they kill your goat, they rape your wife. I need that song, Mr. Garley.
Years gone by and still words don't come easily. Like forgive me. But you can say, baby, I hope you tonight.
Mr. Garley, whatever you offer tonight, I don't know, my man.
At the right time, you be mine. I love you. It's all that you can say. Years gone by and still words don't.
And that's why we're back jamming tonight. Blowing the doors off of this one.
Like I love
Tracy Chapman.
I love you.
Baby, can I hold you?
But you can say, baby.
I want to go to Information Highway right now. But Mrs. Lexi Brooks Roberts is about to give us a pop cover. Mrs. Roberts.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Garley. Thank you, Mr. George P. Lobbo, for always bringing it. Thank you to our participants. Thank you to our listening and viewing audience for always coming us when you are invited here. Again, thank you to all of those that supported this platform tonight on behalf of the Lobbo team and all of you that just love Bridge Radio. We say thank you and thank you to our host. And in last but not least, I want to say this, right? If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Letitia Roberts signing off.
And that's right, folks, tomorrow night, Dr. Jeremiah Wapo. So if you are from the ruling establishment, or you're from any other political party or social group, you own a business out there that you want us to know about your business, please feel free to contact the marketing department. And of course, somebody will contact you. And we charge you a little fee for you to appear. And that's why we're not part of any political party. Just come and your views will be heard as well on this platform. Until then, folks, please allow me to borrow the words of the wise man. Tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises, and there's no second chance to make that first impression. Don't see okra and swallow bone because you can't hide your nakedness from bathing bucket. When God bless you, don't see that medicine. When white men know you friend black man. This has been yours truly, the brother who doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. The voice, the golden voice of Liberia, the medicine of the microphone. Ashford the Giant, and now you know me, Garland. Have a good night.